When man invented the wheel, the course of history took a dramatic turn. The horse-drawn cart became the horseless carriage. Creation of the automobile sparked a need for speed that consumed 100 years of motoring. In the 1960s, man's obsession with big V8 engines resulted in a special breed of car. Fast, powerful, brutal, cars with real muscle. And so, the muscle car was born. Today, the breed continues on its relentless path of evolution. But to know where we're going, we need to know where we've been. Australia's heritage of homegrown high performance on show. Australian Muscle Car Masters. What is Australian Muscle Car Masters? Well, it's effectively a one-day celebration of the Aussie muscle car in all its forms. This car was born at Bathurst in 1967 with the creation of the Falcon GT, and through the 60s, 70s, 80s and 90s, right up to today, the breed has never been stronger and better than ever. Well, very honoured at Muscle Car Masters to be joined by Harry Firth, the former boss of the Holden dealer team. Harry, fantastic to have you here today. I know the weather isn't ideal, but the fans have just come out in their droves.
It's like this all the time in Victoria, so it doesn't worry me.
We're just leaning on one of those cars now, the Tirana A9X. That's one of the definitive muscle cars in Australian history, and very much associated with you.
Well, that was the be-all and end-all of it. You know, that was the last era of Tiranas. And this was the one which we were going to update even further, but it didn't happen. But they won an awful lot of things.
Are you amazed at the support here now from the fans for these cars?
No, we've been saying for a while that cars were only built from 67 to 77, V8s. Yeah. If you hadn't got one of them, you'd done great.
Out of all the races that you're involved with at Bathurst, what sticks in your mind as the most satisfying, the one that gave you the most satisfaction?
In 67, when we beat the Gagans on a level playing field.
There was a bit of rivalry between you and the Gagans, wasn't there?
They did not like us and we couldn't stand them.
Harry, it's fantastic that you've joined us here at Muscle Car Masters, and hope you enjoy the rest of the day.
Okay.
Well, the engine may say powered by Ford, but the man who drove it drove both Fords and Holdens in an extraordinary career. Colin Bond, of course, I'm talking about. Fantastic to have you here, CB. What an incredible atmosphere despite the rain.
Well, it is. I mean, there's so many people here. It's just a shame that it is wet, of course. But, you know, it's great to see so many cars, you know, and they've just come out of the woodwork. I must admit that, you know, looking at this car, of course, the Ford and a lot of the other cars I've driven over the years, it's amazing how well they are. I think they're better conditioned now than when we actually had them ourselves.
It's an incredibly diverse history, isn't it, the Australian muscle car, if you think about it. You and Brocky driving XU1 Tiranas, you rallying the Tiranas, L34s, A9X. There's so much variety here, and they all fit under that Australian muscle car umbrella.
Look, I think that was that particular period of motorsport where you could have a six-cylinder car and a V8 and sometimes even a four-cylinder car, all capable of the same lap times but did it completely differently. And, you know, I think it was a great era personally. You know, now everybody wants the same equipment and it just makes it harder to overtake, I think, whereas at least in these days, you know, you went up there, you raced hard. Sometimes the cars wouldn't last because they weren't engineered as well as the current cars, but they were still a lot of fun to drive.
They were a huge compromise, these cars, weren't they? They were a lot heavier than V8 supercars. They didn't have as much grunt, and they virtually had no brakes from what I remember.
You remember right. No, I mean, you'd start braking for 500 metres out in those days, and for the first 200 you didn't even know it was going to slow down. But eventually it would sort of get to a reasonable speed to make it around the corners. But it was the same for everybody, and we all thought it was fantastic because we didn't know any better.
You'd almost want to put some of these young V8 supercar stars in one of these cars, try and get them to do a season or even a Bathurst 1000, and just learn what it was like to have to juggle faltering oil pressure, juggle overheating gearboxes, juggle brakes wearing out. It was a different challenge, wasn't it?
Oh, certainly. You know, the thing is that the modern cars are designed, obviously, to race hard for the whole race. You couldn't run these things as hard as you could now because they'd either run out of brakes or you'd break some componentry in the cars. You did have to look after these cars because they were still basically the road car, modified to go racing. So they just didn't have the same componentries in them they have today.
Well, we're very lucky at Muscle Car Masters to have John Goss, the 2 times Bathurst 1000 winner, once with Ford in 1974 and, of course, 1985 with the Jaguar, which you've just fired up. John's fantastic to have you here at Muscle Car Masters. You just had the big V12 Jaguar fired up. Fascinating car. Can you tell us a bit about it?
Well, it's an interesting car, Mark, because it's, apart from anything else, a veteran of 5 Bathurst 1000s. And this mighty old cat, probably with 9 lives by now, has been driven by, amongst others, Bob Tullius. Armin Hahner drove it later in testing, and quite a number of blokes who came to me through the years to run the Jaguar program. Cut a long story short, it's a wonderful car. It's a veteran Bathurst car. We restored it. I took it to my farm, of course, after '86. It was in storage for 19 years. Last winter, we restored the car structurally and refinished it in the TWR livery to commemorate Tom's team's effort in 1985 in winning the 1000.
Can you tell us a bit about this car?
Well, this car really dates back to the tail end of the series production era, Mark. The car goes back a long way, and we ran it independently, separately to the factory, of course, in the first half of the '73 season. We took it back to Bathurst. I think we qualified 4th, and we went on to win the race in a memorable day with some very bad weather. And once again, KB came through and partnered me. Wonderful times, memories that I have about this particular Falcon. This car was the follow-on car. Again, Keith Horner had this car specially built for us. It was walked down the line by Don Devison and his team at Broadmeadows. And we had here a very effective car, and we were able to put that good development into the 7 or 8 further coupes that we developed for Ford in those years, up to, say, 78, 79. But she's a great car, and I've often had people come to me and say that it was the best of all the Fords we ever developed. And Kerry at Broken Hill, way out west there, has done a wonderful job of restoring the car. And Grant, of course, has come back once again out of retirement to help us get all these cars right. Well, very honoured at the Australian Muscle Car Masters to have 9 times Bathurst 1000 winner Peter Brock with us. Brocky, look at the weather. Did you bring it from Melbourne with you?
I'm loving it. I'm thinking this reminds me of Bathurst 72, touch of 74, I think. We've had a few wet ones up there, haven't we? But, oh, look, it's, you know, extra challenge for everyone. But, you know, the people are here with their memorabilia, model cars. Gee, I don't know how many model cars I've signed today. And old posters and programs and stuff like that. Some great stuff.
Just standing next to one of the legendary cars from your career, the beautiful Dayglow orange Marlboro VKs from 1984. What an extraordinary car. Can you believe the recall that the fans have for these cars even today?
No, and this particular car, you know, you can sort of talk about, I guess, more modern era type stuff occurring, and they go, well, who won that race or who did this? They all know this car.
You really made your name in that halcyon Australian muscle car era. What race car stands out in your mind as your all-time favourite? Is that possible?
Well, this car here, of course, does take a pretty high priority when you look at cars that epitomised motorsport of that era, that Group C era. 79 Tirana, good car.
A9X?
Yeah, A9X was a terrific car because it took away the engineering shortcomings of the L34. Mind you, the L34 was a quick car because the same engine, a little less developed, but EJ Holden diff side gears and very small axles, so you had to be very careful how you drove it. But then, of course, the XU1. I love that car, but here you've got a lot of HO Falcons and Chargers and cars like that. Fabulous cars.
Pretty appropriate time to catch up with Peter Brock, the 25th anniversary of Commodore's success on the mountain. Thanks to Freightliner, bringing you race 2 of 3 in the Group C and Group A historic touring cars here, and the crowd loving the action. Jason Richards at the wheel of John Harvey's A9X Tirana gets a terrific start, but I tell you what, the man he occupied the front row with did not enjoy the best of starts, Mark.
Yeah, Terry Ashwood just bogged it down there in the Nissan Turbo. Maybe it's a difficult car to get off the line, but fascinating mix here of Group C cars from the 1973 to 1984 period and the Group A cars which took over from 1985 to 1992. Now, one of the Bob Holden Escorts, the RS2000, in trouble there, car 16. Justin Matthews goes way off into the scrub out of turn 2. I think he's managed to get his way back onto the track. Anna Cameron, one of 2 female drivers in historic touring car racing, still on her P plates. Xiaomi Gendre the other in another Holden Tirana A9X. So the ladies getting into the swing of things at the Muscle Car Masters as Jason Richards, after a brilliant start, has bolted away from the rest of the field.
Mark, we don't want to cast dispersions on it, but was that start perhaps too good? We understand officials may be looking at it. So Richards is your leader for now in that marvellous A9X Tirana. There's Phil Kirkham, and once again, car 2, as raced by Jim Richards for the Nissan Gibson Motorsport team. Richards is coming into pit lane. A stop-go penalty is the order of the day, apparently.
Wow, he's going to have some work to do now. I think he's going to rejoin in about 5th place, but he's lost a lot of real estate to race leader Frank Binding. So he's got a lot of work to do to claw his way back up toward the front of the field.
Ex-Steve Masterton Group A car there, car 22, as raced in 1985.
Oh, problems here too for the Chickadee Celica. Car 28, the former Graham Bailey machine. Beach Thomas well and truly beached there as he goes across the sand trap or the gravel trap on the exit to that turn. Meanwhile, Jason Richards is carving up this field. He's currently travelling about 7 seconds a lap faster than anyone else on the track. So he's showing his enormous skill in wet weather conditions. Frank Binding has not got this one just yet.
Well, that's in complete contrast to some comments by Jason Richards between races. He said he's acutely aware of the priceless nature of a number of these race cars, but clearly when he gets in the car, Mark, he forgets about that.
And look who's in Frank Binding's rear view mirror. An incredible charge in the Freightliner Group C, Group A touring car race. Jason Richards has caught up to the Army Reserve Falcon, hand over fist, and he's challenging for the lead. He can still do it because there's still time. Goes, oh, look at this, to the outside on the approach to turn 9.
Binding's driving the ex-Bob Muir car, as raced at Bathurst in 1980 and 1981. Co-driver was the late Pete Gagan in that car. Listen to the crowd, though. They're cheering with good reason. The young Kiwi has come from way back after that stop-go penalty to take victory. Very busy day at the Australian Muscle Car Masters, but Richards is revelling. An excellent second place to Frank Binding in the Ford Falcon and Terry Ashwood in the X-Works Nissan, 3rd.
Well, another one of the guests at Muscle Car Masters, Fred Gibson. Fantastic to have you here this weekend. What about the GDHO Falcons? You and I have spoken about those on many occasions, and you always refer to it, those things were real animals to drive. I mean, why was that? Were they just quite brutal things, were they?
Well, you think about it, we just had a bit of a media briefing up there when Gary Rogers was there talking about V8 supercars and the amount of grip they've got. We didn't have any grip. You know, and that's a different sort of thing. And I drove a Phase 3 at Sandown probably a few years ago now, 4 or 5 years ago, in one of these sort of historic races, and I couldn't believe how bad it was. And I thought, God, did we ever drive these? The brakes didn't work, the steering was sloppy, and the thing is, but it went like clappers.
Well, lots of legendary cars and legendary drivers at the Australian Muscle Car Masters, but one of the current crop of drivers has joined us this weekend, Jason Richards. Jason, you're driving both the Chevy Camaro and the Holden dealer team Tirana. You're having a ball of a weekend out there.
Oh, mate, it's huge. I mean, I wasn't too sure with this rain, but, mate, these things, I mean, they've got so much more steering lock in our thing, so you can really get the tail swinging, and, you know, without things, you'd be gone half the time, but I'm starting to find my feet with them.
You look fantastic out there, and it must be such a transition from a V8 supercar, the thing you normally drive.
Oh, it's night and day, really is. But look, I have to say I'm enjoying technology. You know, I definitely enjoy the advances with technology. But you know, mainly the big difference I've noticed is the timing. Things happen in slow-mo in these cars, but timing is still really critically important. So you can't, you know, if you take the set too early or too late, you know, that you can't get around the corner properly. And it's all about when you pick up the throttle and everything like that. With a supercar, so it all happens all together. I mean, it's the same thing, but just, you know, compressed, I suppose.
One of the many legendary motor racing figures at the Australian Muscle Car Masters at Eastern Creek is John Shepherd. Fantastic to have you here, John. Of course, the former boss of the Holden dealer team at an extraordinarily successful period in the late 70s. This must bring back some memories, seeing those A9Xs pounding around.
Yeah, it's really good, and it's the sort of thing you realise now how important a lot of that stuff was to people at the time. I mean, at the time it was just, oh yeah, it's just a job and should be right, and you go about it. But reflecting on it now, and a lot of people got a lot of pleasure from it.
It was an amazing era when you look back at that 78-79 period when Brocky and Richo won Bathurst in 78 and 79. But that result in 79, winning by 6 laps, breaking the lap record in the final tour, I mean, that was John Shepherd at his best in terms of car preparation, I reckon.
Yeah, well, we sort of got a lot of pride, took a lot of pride in what happened, and a lot of that stuff really doesn't register with you. You think, oh yeah, it happened, and sort of a week later it registers a little bit. 10 years later it starts. That was bloody good stuff, you know, and that's really as much as anything the long-term effect of it all, rather than at the time, because we didn't understand anything about pace cars or safety cars, they like to call them at the time, and you think, oh well, next year someone will win by 7 laps, but that will never happen, you know. So it's nice to have things that people can't rub out.
Well, we've seen a few current V8 supercar stars strutting their stuff out on the Eastern Creek circuit. We've also got a V8 supercar team owner here this weekend, Gary Rogers. Gary, fantastic to see you here. A lot of the young fans would know you as the team manager of the V8 supercar team, but they probably wouldn't know that you've got this long muscle car heritage as a race driver as well.
Yes, well, that's how it all started, Mark. I mean, I poked around for years, I had a lot of fun, had a bit of success, and that's probably how today's deal really got started. This was the last car that we ever raced, or I ever raced, in that category, and it's great to see some people restoring these sort of cars.
You must have some great memories of driving cars like the Tirana A9X, the Group C Commodores. You were one of the heavy hitters in that category. I remember you were right up the front a lot of the time.
Mark, it wasn't as competitive then. I mean, I had a reasonable share of success. Look, I just really enjoyed it. They were great cars to drive. You'd nail the throttle and they'd be sideways and lengthways, and they were just about, you know, they were uncontrollable, but you could have so much fun, and the public loved that sort of energy that these cars produced.
I guess you've been shocked and I guess disappointed when you look back on it. All the beautiful race cars that you've owned in your career, you had to sell them to buy the next one, but when you look at the nostalgia movement now, I guess you wish you could have held on to some of them.
Well, yeah, but that's like any form of history, isn't it? There isn't any until there isn't any. And in those days you did. I mean, you sold one to get the next one, and then whoever bought that one did the same, and so they rolled on through. And eventually most of my cars ended up in the tip somewhere, and some would probably say that's where they should have went. But it went good, and I just really am sorry now. But not having had the money at that time, I mean, today it's different. You can afford to keep a few, and we've kept our 2000 Bathurst winning car, and we've enjoyed that. But I think you've got to say real credit to yourself and everyone involved with this. I mean, it really goes to show you on a day like today, and you look at that bloody grandstand in the car park out the back here, I mean, there's really something attached to this, and I think for the guys that do the work and you know, put their blood and sweat and tears into these cars, it's a real credit to them.
Let's have a quick look at Sydney's Eastern Creek Raceway. It's just under 4 kilometres in length, 12 turns in all, and the cars race in an anti-clockwise direction. Spectacular circuit, heaps of elevation changes, and turn 1 is one of the fastest corners in Australia.
Picking up the action for race number 2, brought to us by Speedy Wheels. It's the Bianti Historics, and we're going to see some serious wheel action today with some of these onboard cameras, Mark.
Yeah, it's just been amazing. I think we've got all the action covered here. One camera in Des Wall's car, the 67 Gagan Mustang, another one in Steve Mason's Camaro, a third in Robbie Braun's Valiant Charger, the hot Hemi 6. Fantastic field of cars. We've got more cameras back in the action. One with Jason Tilley. Now, Jason unfortunately snapped his gear shift in race 1 and has put him right to the back of the grid for race 2. He's got a lot of work to do.
A fantastic crowd in the house, Mark. People have responded to this formula, and look at Mason off the line.
Fantastic start from the Chevy Camaro. Des Wall off pole position. Didn't quite get away as cleanly, and now he's got Rob Braun in his mirrors as they swing through turn 1. One of the fastest corners in Australia. He's under attack from Russell Wright just on the outside there in the yellow Falcon. And you can see how hard Robbie's working here. Hard under brakes down into turn 2.
What a beautiful sound to listen to those onboards. Tirana right in the middle of the mix as well. Into turn number 2, plenty of tyres howling, and that will only get worse as the race wears on.
And that's an unusual sight there. You can see Tilley's green Falcon right alongside his Paul Stubber, the fast man of Group NC Historics. He was late getting out for race 1. That puts him to the back of the grid for race 2. So both Tilley and Stubber watch from a charge from these two.
I think that's only done a good thing for the standard of racing. Stubber is the wild man. Now have a look at some of the moves through the field here. Tilley, as we look at our Rare Spares replay, it's like a scene from the movie Bullet here, Mark.
Oh, look at Stubber just threading the needle backwards and forwards. Bit of racing room through turn 1. The tyres are cold. These cars are very twitchy as they head down toward turn 2. Oh, and he has a go under brakes.
Well, this will be big.
Deeper. Oh, 3 wide. Just enough room for the big cars to get into turn 2. Amazing stuff.
Forget about the street price of some of these fantastic cars. Now the value. Des Wall really giving him a hard time now. This beautiful Mustang. Listen to it sing.
Now the Shannon's in-car camera with Des Wall. A bit of history there. A 1967 Mustang driven by none other than Pete Gagan. Still racing today. Incredible. Here's the battle for the lead. Steve Mason in the big 350 cubic inch Chev Camaro leading Des Wall onto the straight. Huge crowd at Eastern Creek today. Back with the Mount Panorama Resort in-car camera for Robert Braun, and you can see, oh, he's got a problem.
Well, the car got very snaky coming off the top of the hill, so I'm not sure what the problem is. He got off the circuit momentarily. He was certainly fairly animated about it.
I was just going to say the V8s maybe have an advantage in a straight line. Look at this attack under brakes by Wall. He locks the inside wheel.
Oh!
And they've contacted too. Right in the middle of the turn. He had everything locked up there, just nudged into Mason's car, and he's taken the lead as a result.
Back on board with Jason Tilley here, the Speedy Wheels, XY Falcon GTHO, and working really hard out of turn number 2 here. Capri in the crosshairs.
Oh, look how hard he's working at that wheel. The big Hoosier cross-ply tyres that these V8s run in this category, they really move and squirm around under power. Here comes Tilley, that distinctive green Falcon, the reigning Bianti Historic Touring Car Champion, in the hands of his older brother Brad last year. Let's have a look at the Rare Spares replay of that incident down at turn 2. He's really, really deep. Then it locks up. He loses steering control and just a biff into the side of the Chevy Camaro.
Appropriate, we should take the Shannon's car insurance on board for that one as he goes in and just creases the left front quarter panel of that immaculate entry of Mason.
Weight comes off the inside wheel. She pinches, it's locked. Just not enough to arrest the speed. Just a bit of a nudge there between the two cars. So Mason gets back onto the track, but as a result, Wall has taken the lead. Now, Rob Braun, you saw he had some sort of mechanical problem there coming onto the straight. Let's have a look at the rear spares replay. Maybe this will tell the story. Oh! No, he's got some... Is that a flat tyre? I think he's got a flat tyre.
With all due respect to the people currently doing it, this is where drifting really evolved, isn't it? Over 35 years ago, that's the way they used to back him in. We're on board with Tilly once more. It's a Ford Fest here into turn one.
This is a great charge through the pack from Tilly too. Russell Wright on the outside just gives him a bit of room. Tilly showing a lot of speed here. As I said, he started from the back after a broken gear shift, and you can see for that puff of smoke, he's pushing very, very hard in the XY GTHO Falcon, sideways under power out of turn two. And here's our race leader, Des Wall, still looking those front brakes. This gives an indication of how hard he's pushing this car. Famous car.
Loves his muscle cars too, even races a beautiful Chevy Corvette in sports sedan action, so he's always a fan of the big cubes.
Jason Tilley, the youngest of the three Tilley brothers, and they all take turns at driving this car. Certainly one of the most famous cars in Group NC historic touring car racing.
Smoke and dust everywhere up ahead of us. The guy's running a little wide.
Listen to that 351 cubic inch Cleveland V8. Magnificent sound from these historic touring cars.
How hard we want to push the Tirana.
Grant Wilson, car 68, another of the Chevrolet Camaros, proving very popular in this category of racing. They were successful in their day, and that success has certainly translated to the new millennium.
I think that was Scott Bargwana running right there with him as well, as we take a look at Wall once more in the Castrol Ford Mustang.
There's the battle for second, and look at Stubber. He has come from the back of the pack, can you believe this, to be in contention for a podium finish.
Have you ever been in a road car with the guy, Mark? It shouldn't be a surprise to you at all. There's nothing he does slowly. The West Aussie, a property developer, developing a heck of a lead at the moment over his rivals if he can catch this man.
Incredibly famous car. A lot of people think that Castrol Mustang is a replica. It's not, it's the real deal. The Stubber comes hard under brakes. Bianti, in-car camera with Steve Mason.
Oh, Stubber!
Look at this, trying to get 550 brake horsepower to the ground.
No wonder the stands are full, Mark. Look at this kind of racing.
Well, look at how busy they are on the steering wheel. These cars, they weigh about 1,500 kilograms, somewhere between 550, 600 brake horsepower from these V8 engines, and very, very hard cross-ply tyres that don't help these cars get much power to the road. This is why it's spectacular. Look at this.
Mason.
This is like a drifting competition. It's not a race.
This is fantastic. It's a shame that the word aero isn't limited to chocolate bars rather than spoiler kits, because this is when they really had to manhandle the cars. Fantastic stuff. Over Corporate Hill and just sliding in and sliding out.
Steve Mason's going to be watching in his mirrors too, as if he hasn't got enough to look at out the front. Jason Tilley is coming storming through the field in the green Falcon. So Stubber and Tilley have done a miraculous job to fight their way up toward the front of the pack. But you can see, there is Tilley, just in the background there. So Stubber's done a terrific job. Oh, just locks the inside wheel. He's pushing very, very hard. He's trying to hunt down Des Wall in that famous Pete Gagan Mustang.
He's tried all manner of different forms of motorsport, including sprint car racing, so some of this sideways stuff would be not new to him at all. This would be interesting in a straight line.
Very, very quick in a straight line, these cars. 5.7 litre engines, highly developed. Very, very quick. 250 Ks in a straight line. Now, what's happened there? They left the door wide open for Mason, who took the opportunity, ducked back into second position. So there's the race lead. Here's the battle for second. And it's going to be a three-car battle soon, because Tilley is catching the two Chevy Camaros hand over fist. Look at how sideways they are coming out of turn two.
The anti-model cars on board of Steve Mason shows just how busy he is behind the wheel. Whoa! You just have to feed the power on so carefully, don't you?
Oh, they talk about that too, how difficult it is to manhandle these cars, particularly around somewhere like Eastern Creek, which is like a constant radius corner leading into another constant radius corner. The car is continually turning.
The other thing too, I managed to speak to Gary Rush, whose 1971 GTHO, his Bathurst attempting car, is out there on the racetrack as well. He said after 3 laps you generally didn't have any brakes left anyway, so you really physically had to back the cars into the corners to wash off speed.
Exactly, that was a technique they had to use back in those days. And the good thing about the regulations for Group NC is they've kept the actual brake size the same as the production car, so that's why these cars start to run out of brakes toward the end of races. And the guys use a lot of sideways motoring to wash off speed. Now, I said Tilly was coming. Jeez, look at, he's there. Now, keep in mind the yellow Camaro in this car, the Speedy Wheels in-car camera started off the back of the field, and they have absolutely hammered this field. They're up there now, battling for second place.
It's very rare that you'll go past Paul Stubber in this sort of competition, so Tilly's going to give Stubber a big wake-up call. He would be well aware of him. Mason there in the second position. Well, they straighten up a little bit knowing that Tilly's behind them this time around.
Great battle here. 3 American muscle cars leading this race. There's the first of the Aussie ones. The Speedy Wheels Bianti Race 2. Jason was just saying the tremendous top-end power this 351 Cleveland V8 has in that Falcon. It just gets beyond 7,000 RPM and it just wants to keep revving. Oh, look at Stubber. Wow. That's a fast corner. And he's got that thing fully crossed up. Hard under brakes, he gets him too. So the door was open, so he picks up 3rd spot.
And he could just about have Mason coming out of here as well. Big stuff indeed.
You can't believe these guys are on bitumen, mate. This looks like dirt. This looks like clay to me.
Or ice. Either way.
Oh, look at Tilly now.
Got him.
He's got good power down coming out of that corner. Leaps into 2nd position into turn 4.
Stubber. Watch for Stubber now on Mason as well.
Boy, he did a number on those 2 Chevys, didn't he? He fixed him up in a space of a few hundred metres.
Look out, Deswall. Cyclone Tilly is on its way. Look at Stubber on the outside here. Mindful, respectful, but still hard on the gas.
How good is this racing? Door handle to door handle. Stubber's offline on the outside as they come up toward Corporate Hill, but he's hanging on too.
You're implying that Paul's off and on line, are you? He has his own line, the Stubber line.
He's certainly got his own distinctive technique of racing, shall we say.
Fantastic. It reminds me very much of the old Peter Hopwood days in the Big Impala, the way he used to back him in. There was a great iconic motorsport car and driver combination.
And this is what these magnificent historic touring cars bring back. Oh, now he's been having some sort of drama under brakes with this car. We've seen it throughout the race, locking the left and right front wheels. He's gone off at turn 12. Has he got some other problem? No, he's got it fired up.
Trying to find a gear there.
And he's back into the race, but it looks like he's struggling, some sort of chassis imbalance there with the car, because it's been locking those front brakes pretty badly.
Well, it's just made it a whole lot easier for Tilly, hasn't it? Because look at the lead wall has now. Imagine what he had before that mistake.
Magnificent car. Competed for 5 consecutive seasons with Pete Gagan at the wheel. And here comes Stubber.
Hello, Ball.
Straight line speed from the Western Australian. Look at this, very, very quick corner, turn 1, one of the fastest corners in Australia. And I think Paul Stubber's intention this weekend is to get through it fully sideways.
I just think back to that start, the way they were weaving through the traffic. That was phenomenal. Fastest to the rear for the next one too, eh? Can we dial that one up? What an amazing difference good weather makes as we take a look now at the Shannon's Car Insurance on board, and Des, lucky there was no wall. Oof, straight off the racetrack. Went very quiet then, stalled.
Yep, the engine shut it down. He had to fire it up. The Rare Spares replay takes you right into the cockpit of the Mustang. Here is Jason Tilly in hot pursuit of the Mustang.
Oh, we've missed a couple there.
No, I think he's got something more serious than that going on. That sounded like some sort of drivetrain failure to me, because the engine just freewheeled all of a sudden like something snapped. And I think he's out. What's he? Yeah, he's retiring. Well, broken gear shift in race 1 showed the tremendous speed of the car in race 2, but looks like some other drama has taken him out after such a brilliant drive from Jason Tilly to get up to 2nd place from the back of the grid.
Well, this man has done it all well, except for a minor episode back there in the previous lap. The beautiful Gagan Mustang, certainly handily steered by this man here, Des Wall, coming down to take the checkered flag at Eastern Creek Raceway in front of a very appreciative and very good crowd.
Well, it is amazing we can see this car competing in the modern day. A lot of people think it's a replica, but it's not. It's the real deal, the real car as driven by Pete Gagan. one of the really special attractions of the Australian Muscle Car Masters is the incredible display of road-registered muscle cars. With hundreds on show here, taking part in the track parades throughout the day, and of course the static show and shine displays. Clubs including the GTR and XU1 Tirana Club, they're hosting their inaugural Nationals this year. Also clubs representing HDT and the late great Peter Brock, Fords, Mustangs, Chryslers, Hot Chargers and Pacers, even Leyland P76, Camaro and Firebird and Bolwell. They're all here.
Time now for your Group C and A action. Race number 2, proudly brought to us by the Mount Panorama Best Western Resort. And you're going to see plenty of cars that make a lot of sense out here.
Yeah, Group C touring cars reigned supreme from 1973 to 1984, and then the Group A took over from 85 right through to 92. So there's a great spread of touring car heritage on show.
Set for a start in front of a great crowd once more. Trouble getting off the line for the Skyline by the looks of things.
On board with Paul Stubber, the talk at turn 4, in-car camera in the ex-Holden dealer team A9X, and he's pretty busy here. Whoa, gets his inside wheel on the grass through turn 1. Cold tyres, he's attacking and attacking hard. Willie Van Wersch in the ex-Bernie Stack Commodore. And there's a great variety of cars out here. All these cars have to be logbook cars, cars that actually competed during the era. So what you're seeing is the real deal.
Yeah, we've got the Volvo competing back there in the field as well. There's an RS2000 Escort, an ex-Bobby Holden Escort. So everywhere you care to look, there's just a piece of history out there.
So Willie Van Wersch leading in the Bernie Stack Commodore. Norman Mogg there too, in one of the ex-Holden Racing Team Commodores from the late 80s. And Paul Stubber, this car was driven by John Harvey during the Holden dealer team glory days of the late 1970s, when no one could touch these red and white A9X Tiranas. They won just about everything. And Stubber thoroughly enjoying himself. Now look at how sideways he gets on the exit to turn 8. Boy, oh boy, this guy loves getting some angles on these cars.
He's smooth, isn't he? Also out there too, I noticed the Beach Thomas Celica GT2000 with a big chickadee livery down the side as well. So it doesn't matter whether it's the car or the livery or just the era that you remember. The memories come flooding back. Look at Stubber here.
Look at the
way busy.
Rare Spares replay gets it. He was so crossed up, you'd swear someone would have lost it, but he managed to gather it up. Norman Mogg, Percy Crompton, Holden Racing Team Commodore from 1989. And he's getting a lot of speed out of this car this weekend. Stubber, though, closes in on the back of the Commodore as they thunder down the main straight. Van Wersch leading, Mogg in second, Stubber in third as he looks down the inside on the approach to turn 1.
Always enviously referred to as the walking stick by Ford fans. The walking short just up ahead. Here comes Paul again. Mogg's checking the mirrors going, is it worth it? I might as well let him past here.
Well, he's really got this car dancing, hasn't he? Sneaks up the inside, Mogg gives him racing room. That's one thing you'll find in this category of racing. There's a fair amount of respect amongst competitors because these cars are the genuine article. They're historic cars. They're gaining in value every day, and no one wants to see them bent.
There's the Nissan back there as well. Plenty of heritage. The Peter Jackson Skyline as well. Now, Paul Stubber's actually mic'd up at some point during the race. We're going to be listening to his thoughts. That'll be interesting in itself.
He's probably a little bit busy to talk right now, though. Seesawing away at the wheel, they're battling for the lead of this race. One of the fascinating things of mixing Group C and Group A touring cars, though, is you get a comparison of performance from cars over a very large time frame. You've got here the Commodore, which was running in the 80s, and of course the Tirana was running in the 70s. But in this day and age, this Tirana is really giving this Commodore plenty. Look at how sideways he gets. He's really got this car dancing on ice.
As you said, Mark, you're getting the matchups that you always pondered about. I wonder what the A9X would be like, up against this or up against that. So we just heard Paul starting to get a bit chatty there as well as he chases the Roe Valley Wines rear spoiler.
That's where I'll get him next time, I reckon.
He'll be talking his way around the circuit, talking to the car.
You can see the autograph too on the glove box as they come back onto the main straightaway as well every time the cockpit lights up. What a good battle for the lead we've got going here.
And they're revving this 308 Holden V8, uses the slipstream of the car in front, gets down the side of Willie Van Wersch and takes the lead of the race. Tips it into turn one. This is a very, very quick corner in these cars. Oh, whoa! This is sprint car stuff. He does come from a sprint car background, but he could be out on the clay.
A little bit of out and under. We got him now, we can do it our way. Let's drive away from him.
It's having way too much fun for one person, Mark.
Oh, boy, isn't he what? He'll drive this race the way he wants to. I thought he was doing that from the start. Willie Van Wersch in his mirrors now doesn't want to lose that lead. And look at the fantastic variety of cars in the field behind them. Michael Ward, ex-Bill Patterson, Tirana, and there's the Jansen Perkins A9X from 1977 at Bathurst, finished third up there. So great. Oh,
Van
Willie Van
Wersch.
Wersch. Oh, he's lost a wheel.
That was very, very close for the 7 car. Oh, likewise there as well.
You can still see the wheel bouncing around in the background. Other guys going left and right trying to avoid the stricken Commodore. But a left rear wheel has departed company in rapid fashion. And that may bring out the safety car.
Safety car. Oh, that'll just punch it up. We'll have a bit more fun, I suppose. Yahoo!
Stubber having fun. Let's take a look at the rare spares replay of all of this. And ball gets through cleanly. Van Wersch just popped the wheel off. Shit, accelerated away. Must have bounced off the fence.
Oh, how close did Mogg come to? Spinning the HRT Commodore, but he was lucky not to hit tail to tail there. And he just might have kissed the wall, he did. But got away with very light damage. Let's have a look at the Valvoline in-car camera from Frank Binding's viewpoint and the Army Reserve Falcon. And this is the way it looked for Stubber.
Bit of understeer here. I'm having a bit of a battle, actually. Turning into oversteer. Oh, they've just thrown it away. Oh, we better just take it easy. Mate. Talk about making your life just a breeze. We're having miles of fun. Now I better just save the tyres for the next race, eh?
Well, he's certainly got to look at that in his rearview mirror. Problems here for Michael Ward in the ex-Bill Patterson team Brock car. Smoke pouring from the back of that A9X Tirana, so unfortunately problems there.
Oh, this is just gas fun, I tell you. John Harvey, I'm very envious of him. He raced his car for 2.5, nearly 3 years with the Holden dealer team. He won plenty of good races, but team orders are team orders. They were promoting Peter Brock, so on a lot of occasions he just had to run second. And Gentleman John, as they call him, he played his role in the team. And he's a legend. And I'm just absolutely rapt to be able to come out and just rev it up, burn the tyres, and we don't have to do anything too dramatic except put on a show for the crowd. And look at that crowd, they are just loving it.
Entertainer, race car driver and promoter, it seems, Paul Stubber.
Yeah, he's doing a great job out there. We take the Valvoline in-car camera with Frank Binding and the Army Reserve Falcon. They're going back to full green racing conditions. Safety car peels off. So it's pedal to the metal. Down this long, long straight. Brett Madron in the Mustang in third place. And this huge crowd at Eastern Creek loving this. Look at this great mix of history here. The Mount Panorama Resort Group C and A race really turning it on for the fans. So Stubber leading. Frank Binding, the Army Reserve Falcon, finds himself up in second place. Brett Madron in the little Group A Mustang, 5-litre V8. One of the cars from New Zealand, built by the Anderson brothers. Competed here at Bathurst on a couple of occasions. And looking very fast and competitive here. But here's our race leader. And hasn't he been turning it on?
Just fantastic to see the flares again, isn't it? To see how far they protruded off the side of the bodywork.
And all those other Group C signatures, the flared guards, the fat tyres, the drop tanks, they really were pretty aggressive looking race cars. And Frank Binding in this beautiful Army Reserve Falcon, he's getting a lot more success out of this car than its original owner Bobby Muir ever did during its heyday. It was a tough time for Bob. Didn't quite have the equipment of the leading teams and really struggled to come to terms with this vehicle. But Frank Binding, in historic touring car racing, has rebuilt it and and certainly given it a new lease of life. It's a very competitive Ford.
Not quite competitive enough to knock off Paul Stubber, though, as he sends the Tirana down the main straightaway here at Eastern Creek Raceway on an inevitable path to victory. Paul Stubber, what a drive here at the Creek.
Fantastic victory in the ex-HDT Tirana, and Frank Binding will take second ahead of the Nissan in third.
Little MHDT. I tell you, this car is just the way it left the track. Brakes, shocks, wheels, motors, everything.
Don't remember John Harvey driving it quite like that, but it certainly is quick. Plenty more CNA action coming up later in the show.
Well, one of the many anniversaries being celebrated at the 2006 Australian Muscle Car Masters is, of course, the 30th anniversary of Bob Morris's exciting Bathurst win back in 1976. Bobby, great to see you joining us today, and I believe you're itching. You might be getting in the car and going for a drive.
Well, I'd like to give the old girl a bit of a rev up around the track, and let people see that it's not just a static display at the Bathurst Museum, but it does actually run, and it is the Rigid Edge original car.
Yeah. First L34 Tirana produced, I believe.
Yeah, it's the very first one down the production line, so that in itself is a bit of history. And as well as that, it had a second place at Bathurst in 75 and one in 76. So it's got quite a bit of history, this car.
Must be exciting for you, 30 years on, to be reunited with this car. And I guess when people celebrate that victory, it was one of the most emotional victories I think I've ever seen at Mount Panorama, that race in 76.
Yeah, it's sort of, it doesn't seem like it's 30 years ago, to be quite honest. And who would have thought, 30 years hence, that the car would still be looking as pristine now as it did then.
Does it give you a thrill just being around this scene? Like 30 years on, the fans, they all know who Bob Morris is, they all know about this car. It just seems to get passed from generation to generation.
Well, it is amazing to think that there are guys here that probably weren't even born when this car was racing, and they still know all about it. And, I think that in itself is incredible.
Well, one of the many anniversaries being celebrated at the 2006 Muscle Car Masters is, of course, the 35th anniversary of the Chrysler Charger, making its debut at Bathurst, the Hardy Friday 500 of 1971. And the man who was leading the charge for Chrysler was Leo Gagan. Leo, it's fantastic to have you here. 35 years on, boy. That's a long time.
Well, it doesn't seem that long. I wonder what I did with all that time.
It must have been fantastic, because you were leading the development with the car, with the Chrysler Australia. You got in as a clean sheet design. You were there from the start. It must have been very interesting times.
Yes, they were paying me for my advice and also for my driving. They took most of my advice. And that was fine. They disregarded a couple of things I would have liked to have had. But it was fantastic to see the birth of a car. The first Charger I saw was made of clay.
And people talk about that race in 1971. It was, of course, dominated by the GDHO Falcons, but you've always said if they'd had decent brakes on these Chargers, you would have beat Ford.
Oh, look, it would have put Chrysler's budget up a bit, because they would have had to buy sandwiches, but we would have been that far in front we could have stopped for lunch. Instead of that, we had to be gentle and nurse the brakes. We were lapping 5 seconds a lap below the potential of the car, but we had to make it live. You have to remember, and people, so many people here today weren't even born when all this was happening, but the cars had to be raced as they were sold. The manufacturers had to make and sell 200 cars to qualify. Now, we could have built a faster car, but it would have been unsafe to sell to the public. So we had to compromise a little bit there.
And tell me, what's your favourite driver from the old days, the 70s and 80s?
Alan Moffat, actually, yeah. I was hoping to get an autograph with Sully, but I haven't found him yet.
This is what motor racing is all about.
Yeah, why do you say that?
Well, it's what I grew up with, and I know a lot of the people here are similar age to me, and there's a lot of younger ones, which is nice. And it's very important that we breed this into them. this is what it's all about. Wonderful day.
Yeah, older man, Brock and Grice.
Big Gossy, yeah, Johnny Goss. And I spoke to him and I spent some time with him down in the pit shed earlier this morning. So that was a real buzz.
It's good to see all the old Fords and Holdens. Yeah, it's good.
I've known John Goss and Gary Wilmington for years. Alan Moffat, he's the king of the Australian royal family. And he's here today.
Mate, it's awesome. The event's fantastic. Good to see all the old muscle cars, all the stuff that I grew up with. Not really a fan of the V8s as much as these things because the drivers actually drove these cars. Even if they had problems, they drove around them. It's just good to see all the old race drivers and really good day.
Well, it's a wonderful atmosphere at the 2006 Muscle Car Masters as we welcome an old mate of ours, Kevin Bartlett, and of course the 9 Sports Camaro. Great to have you back here, KB. Last year it was very, very wet, and I remember your face was almost white with fear driving that thing around on, what, 30-year-old tyres?
Well, I wouldn't have called it fear. I was petrified, but it was fun actually. I like it when it's sideways like that, and it was continuously sideways the whole way last year. Yeah.
Now, speaking about driving this magnificent car in the wet, this is, of course, the 25th anniversary of that scintillating pole position lap you did at Mount Panorama in 1981. Pouring rain. You absolutely went out and wrung this car's neck, and everyone just cheered. They were just in disbelief. Has that sort of faded in your memory, or does 25 years ago seem like a click of the fingers?
It is a click of the fingers. You've got that quite right. I can still remember very, very much every inch of the track on that wet day. I can remember where the puddles were. It's amazing, isn't it?
Well, the fans are certainly looking forward to seeing this car come out on the track. Are you staggered at the response, at the incredible feeling people have for this car all this time, on?
Well, yes, I am staggered in as much as they've shared what I share. This is the best touring car I ever had. And I've driven a lot of touring cars for a lot of different people, but this is the one that I built for me. In other words, every change we made was to suit my feel of the motor car rather than as a compromise. When I had Bondi driving for me and Bob Forbes, everything they said went out the window. It was, no, sorry, can't do that.
This is KB's car.
Yeah, that's right.
I was 10 years old when this car came out, Mark Oastler, and I got to tell you, there was no more vivid image in motorsport than a car upside down at the top of the mountain.
Yeah, it is really one of the icons of Australian touring car racing history. Fabulous Z28 Camaro. Bathurst pole position in 1980 and 1981. Of course, the famous rollover in 1982. And look at the way KB is getting stuck into it here. Imported in 1979, backing from the late media mogul, Kerry Packer. Recently restored by fabulous Bowden collection in Queensland. KB is very much hands-on in the restoration of that car. Made its official racetrack comeback at the 2005 Muscle Car Masters, but that was in wet conditions, of course. Now KB's out in the dry, and he's absolutely having a ball. Isn't it great to see the car being driven this hard by the bloke who made the name all those years ago?
Still very much actively involved in so many facets of Australian motor racing too. Never ever turned his back on it. That is an absolute monster of a car. That defines a muscle car if any car does. Here's another classic, the Bob Morris A9X Tirana. This is the car that he knocked off the works team with in 1979 to win the Australian Touring Car Championship. It was a fantastic year. No one thought they'd get anywhere near Brock with the works backing. But John, with Peter Malloy as his engine builder and his chief tactician, took the fight right up to Brock and managed to win the title. Incredible. This car now, great to see it still in action. Beautifully restored. Owned by Gary and Chris Hinton. And they really enjoy getting it out and blowing the cobwebs out for the fans. The last two cars we've seen with commercial television backing. Yes. Go and try that now, I dare you. Amazing stuff. Very distinctive car too. Bob Morris chose this paint scheme because Ron Hodgson said to him, well, what colour scheme do you like? And he said, it's got to be green because it'll stand out on colour TV. And he was right too. Pardon me if I bow here. Yes. Bow in reverence, John Goss. 1974 Bathurst winner.
and this beautiful working replica of the car that took he and Kevin Bartlett to victory that year. The original car, unfortunately, was just completely trashed at a time when these cars weren't considered valuable. So John had a spare XA GT shell, and he built this car up using a lot of the original components from that 74 Bathurst winner. So it really is wonderful to see this car back in action. Look at these two.
This could be on here.
Well, they've been at it for a few laps and they're not mucking around. So John Goss and Kevin Bartlett, former teammates at Bathurst, and really looking fantastic in action here all these years later at the Muscle Car Masters.
As today's generation of V8 supercar stars start the climb to Mount Panorama for the 45th anniversary of the great race, we mustn't forget the heroes of the past. Those who paved the road. Those who built the foundations. Today we celebrate their contribution, the cars and stars of yesteryear that have left an indelible mark on our minds. It's the 3rd annual Muscle Car Masters.
The Kiwis are here at the Muscle Car Masters for 2007, and they've brought with them some cool cars, a wide array of machines, and the Kiwis are here to impress.
The group of us came over last year just to have a look-see, and after a couple of quiet ones up in the grandstand, we decided that the Australians needed to see what our Kiwi breed was about.
How do these cars differ from what we're used to seeing here in Australia?
I think really the main thing is we are a little bit more modified. Cars are a little lighter with a lot of composite panels, quite a bit more horsepower. These cars are anywhere from sort of 650, 700 odd horsepower. We really much wanted a big noisy V8 class, and pretty much Tiranas, Monaros, Mustangs, Camaros, and that's where it comes from.
Eastern Creek Raceway, 3.93 kilometres, 12 turns in total, and the New Zealand Central Muscle Cars set to storm the track. This is the first time they've joined us for the Muscle Car Masters, a racing category that's been run since 2003, and basically, Gary Wilkinson, if it's got a V8, it gets a start.
And I tell you what, this is going to be interesting because it is a reverse grid handicap. I don't know how they worked that out, but they've worked it out somehow. The fast blokes are at the back of the field, way, way back. And the slowest qualifiers are at the front, and it's going to be mayhem by the time we get to about mid-race.
And we're going to release the cars in a range of groups. So for the fast guys lining up at the rear of the field, they don't just have to start from the rear, they're going to have to start a long, long way behind.
Right, these blokes are the rabbits. Off they go.
They've got a good start. The Commodore of Craig Stacey is away, loses a spot off the grid. But this class, Gary's really been a building force in New Zealand racing. All sorts of cars. They can make some modifications to the Group 1 cars. They can fit slick tyres. They can change the brakes.
It's a great mix and match class, and this category of racing has really put a fire under motor racing in New Zealand the last couple of seasons. It's really got it off the ground again. There's an enormous lift of interest in the sport.
Plenty of cars with replica paint liveries too to some of the great muscle cars from here in Australia. Certainly the scene here has inspired them. There is the second last group, Paul Stubber in the yellow Chef Camaro, flying the flag literally for Australia on the roof of that 69 Camaro. And now our tail enders finally get going. You could have timed that with a sundial, they're that far behind.
A couple of Aussies in the field, we should point out, not only Paul Stubber but Joe McGuinness as well. 2 Aussies up against all of these Kiwis to keep an eye on.
Andrew Sinclair, Paul Sinclair, a pair of Commodores. They're starting back towards the pack. They're going to have to work their way through. It's going to take some time. And hang on a second, that's Richard Gatwood, one of our back markers, who's one of the fastest cars in the field. That's a 65 Mustang, was the Central Muscle Car Group 1 champ in 2006, and that car's got just under 700 horsepower. It's going to have to use some of it. Back up the front. These are the cars that they're chasing. Craig Stacey.
35, Craig Stacey in the Holden V8 Commodore.
And these guys are pedalling as fast as these cars will go, because they know that the fast guys in the Group 1 cars, which are generally running anywhere between 600 and 750 horsepower, they're on the chase. Terry Carter in the Charger. Down through turn 12, but here is our front-running Falcon. This is Joe McInnes, one of the Aussies in the field. Look at the cap he's got. He's got the length of the main straight back to these guys.
Well, there's no substitute for power when it comes to this category of racing, and it doesn't matter how far back you start. You put your foot to the floor, and guys like this, Mike Oldham.
The Speedy Wheels on board. That is a genuine Ford Cobra. Runs in the production muscle car class, which is for cars that are a bit more standard. They have to have the same. They have to have road tyres, the original type brakes. So those cars are certainly not as modified as something like this. Steve Hildred in the roaring Monaro.
Roaring's the right word. Just listen to the sound of those big V8 engines.
Turn 1. Patient on the throttle. Steve's a two-time Central Muscle Cars Group 1 champ from a drag racing background. Can turn the corners pretty well too. Now the fast guys are starting to work their way through. That is the Chevy Camaro of Billy Dunn. And you have to pick your moment here. Paul Stubber trying to fight his way through. He picks up another spot, gets by the Tirana of Dave O'Leary. That car, that Chevy Camaro, running a 410 cubic inch sprint car engine. Lots of power there, and Paul knows how to throw that car around. Mike Oldham in the number 1 Ford Cobra. That's a genuine XC Cobra, one of 400 made in the late 1970s. Has won the production muscle car class 2 of the last 3 years, but it's getting busy in the mid-pack.
This is where the race really starts to get interesting. The back markers are now closed up. They're in the midfield. And they're going to start pushing some of these guys aside now.
Greg Honor in the red Mustang on the charge. Back on board the Shannon's in car. Steve Hildred, the number 21 Monaro. Turn 9, the hairpin. Being pretty patient on the throttle here. And this second half of the lap, it's pretty hard to make a move, even if you have got a faster car, down through turn 11, leading to 12, to set up that critical run onto the front straight.
He's in a good position here, though, if he can get out and open it up down the straight.
That is what 350 cubic inches sounds and looks like.
Bye-bye.
Right at the top of the rev range. Picks up one more, so starting to carve his way through the field. And that looks like a problem for one of the Falcons. Jason Cowan-Ratty in the XA Coupe wisely decides to park it before turn 1. He's Steve Hildred. The long, long way around at turn 2. Elliot Crawford in the Chevy Corvette. They've had some problems with the gearbox in this car this weekend.
He's got problems.
He's got more.
He's gone.
The Rare Spares replay. Steve Hildred tucks it back up the inside. Bang! And the Corvette exit stage right.
Look at this for muscle.
It's taking muscle cars to new extremes. Crawford ends up heading off to the concrete wall. And Andrew Sinclair in the VK Commodore, also in some dramas, a former Group 2 champ in the category. Now that is another Commodore, that's Paul Sinclair, stepping out of the 29 car. So starting to drop like flies at the moment, but Joe McInnes.
A trouble-free run. I mean, there is not another car in sight around McInnes. He's blown them all away.
He's down at turn 1. No one within QE at the moment. Here they come, though. They're starting to fight their way through. This is John Colborne in the Tirana SS. 630 horsepower from the 312 cubic inches. It's the last lap, so time is of the essence. Look at the dent in the door there. Steve Hildred, that Monaro, it knows it's been in a race.
Back on board with Hildred again, passing another one in the big charge for the front.
He's definitely getting there. He just got by Cam Neal in the 39 Chevy Coupe. It started towards the front, so he's hustled and muscled through a few of them.
Colin Sargison there on the left of screen picks up another spot as well, so he's charging towards the front. This is developing into a very, very good finish. The back markers are dropping by the wayside, and the real hard charges are coming to the fore.
Steve Hildred chasing them down in the HT Monaro.
Oh! 3 hands full there.
The Shannon's in car got all of the action there. This is the last lap. He's fighting for second spot, but Joe McInnes, our race leader in the Falcon GTHO, look at the gap. He has absolutely streeted them.
He has had an absolutely untroubled run from the back to the front to take the checkered flag. Joe McInnes, superb performance in the Falcon.
And Steve Hildred is going to get into a drag race here. He's going to get second. Stunning drive.
Hildred takes second. Colin Sargison in the HQ Holden in third position.
Ooh, Cam Neal hasn't made it around turn 12, but Joe McInnes, a great winner in the Central Muscle Cars. Lots of familiar faces at the Muscle Car Masters and a couple of Seatons here, Glenn and Bo. Fantastic event, Glenn. This gets bigger and better every year.
It's a brilliant event, and just to show the popularity of all the historic stuff and all the past stuff, it just shows you there's still a lot of support for it. It's awesome. It's a great day for it. I was here a couple of years ago when it actually had a rain out on a Sunday, but they still drew a great crowd, so the popularity is very good, and it's great for the future.
You're amazed at how many people know about all these cars and this history. It's quite phenomenal.
Yeah, there's so much history here when you look at V8 racing or even Group A racing, even right back to the Ho days. Like, there's so much history here, and there's so much of Bathurst here as well as of what have been racing at Bathurst all those years. And you also have all these NC cars which really bring back all that early period as well, so it's great to see.
Bo, you've got the driving suit on. You're behind the wheel of the Capri this weekend. Is it as much fun as you remember it?
Oh yeah, no, I really enjoy doing it. Glenn's brought one down too, but he sort of a bit hard on his one yesterday, and we've put it back in its box for the weekend. But he'll be here next time with it, and really going well.
Are you enjoying your motor racing as much these days? There's so many people here that are remembering the old cars and the old races. It's quite amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, no, well, I really enjoy it now. I like working on the car still, like doing this style of car over the modern day V8s and stuff, and just living still in this era.
A lot less stress too.
It is a lot less stress, I can tell you.
The over 3 litre Group N touring cars are on track, Gary. Jack Elsgood to start from pole in the GTHO Falcon.
Pre-1973 historic touring cars. This will bring the fans to their feet.
Simon Phillips in the Tirana XU1 from the outside of the front row. Scott Barguana, another of the XU1s from row 2. The Shannon's feature race is off and running, and the V8 power charges to turn 1. More used to seeing Jack Elsgood in the V8 Ute racing, but has done plenty of historic touring car racing over the years. Oh, drama at turn 1. Cars going every which way somehow. I didn't see any contact there.
Well, Simon Phillips, who got swamped off the start, has survived all of that, and it's worked to his benefit.
I think they've all managed to find their way through the dirt, through the sandpit as well, and get running again. But all sorts of cars in this category. A great period of Aussie touring car racing. Jack Elsgood, certainly the Goliath. The chasing Tirana, certainly David.
Top 4 or 5 have opened up a reasonable gap there because of the melee at the first corner.
Jack Elsgood under pressure though. Scotty Barguana chasing hard in the glorious 6-cylinder XU1 Tirana. The cousin, of course, of V8 supercar star Jason. These two paired up for a class win back at the mountain, back in their younger days, in a Toyota Corolla of all things, but Scotty's hustling pretty hard here.
Well, Scotty knows how to wind a car up, and he's got this thing flying at the moment.
And the fans in the grandstand are loving it. Holden and Ford.
A little bit of nudge there too.
The power of the Ford edges Jack back in front, but the crowd in the grandstand at Eastern Creek are loving this one, and it's only lap 1. And that big Falcon gets to the straight. Bargwanna pushing it around the corner, but the big V8 now will be unleashed, and the Tirana is going to have to make its own arrangements. Bruce Dummett challenging down the outside to 1.
Gave it up pretty quickly though, didn't he?
Oh, that's why. There was a yellow flag there. No passing through 1. There's a green there, and that's what Jack Elsgood's got.
Nobody's passing him at the moment.
No one can catch him to pass him in the big GTHO Falcon in the livery. Very reminiscent of Bill Brown, who I guess wrote himself into the history books for riding himself across the wall at the top of the mountain. The Rare Spares replay of the drama at turn 1, lap 1, and that had the potential to get expensive.
It was all just a smokescreen.
They'll manage to drive their way through it. Now this is the Tirana of Bruce Dummett, just dropping back through the pack there, losing a spot to Simon Phillips, and he's got a problem.
Oh, yes, smoke under the bonnet, overheating there, and that'd be the end of his race, I'd say.
So that leaves Holden's honour in the hands of Scott Bargwanna, who through this part of the track gains ground on the big Falcon. This is the classic Holden and Ford fight, but don't forget there was a third player, the Charger, Chrysler, back there in third.
Robbie Burns, very poetic he is behind the wheel.
Jack Elsgood, look at the power. The Falcon stretching clear on the straight, and that yellow flag still there, so no passing at turn 1.
Well, Jackie's an ex-rugby league man, Eastern Suburbs. He knows a bit about power, and he's putting the muscle to good use here.
But this is where the Tirana is in its element. Look at it catch under brakes. The 3.3 litre, 6-cylinder, and they lean on the tyres. Turn 2 feels like it goes forever. Simon Phillips, 4th spot, the second of the Tirana XU1s, but look at Elsgood covering the line. Scotty Bargwanna going a long way around. He's on the inside for the next turn.
No.
I think he might.
Yes, he does. He's got him. Well done. That's a big job. Scotty Bargwanna, terrific.
Now the question is, how does he stop that big Falcon down the straight?
Well, you open up a big enough gap coming out of the corners. That's the plan, anyway.
Let's see if he can put it into action through Corporate Hill.
He is flying.
This is where the Tirana has the upper hand. It's handling, under brakes. That Falcon, it's a big car. Jack's driving it well. Has to drive it pretty straight there to look after the rear tyres. And if anything too, Gary, Rob Burns in that Chrysler is not dropping away.
He's got a gap. He's got a gap. Sliding through the corner. Now the foot is flat to the boards. This is where it's going to tell. The big V8 legs starting to reel him in.
He'll be looking in the mirror. He's moving across to cover the line down at turn 1. If Jack's going to get him, he's got to go the long way up the inside at 1. But remember, there was a yellow flag there last time around, and Jack didn't want to make the pass, but it's not there. So he could have actually gone on with that, but he lives to fight another day.
Behind this pair, Robbie Burns and Simon Phillips have got their own battle going on, so it's 2 by 2.
And this is classic historic touring car racing stuff. This was, you remember Bathurst 1972, Peter Brock in a Tirana, Alan Moffat in a Falcon on that day. The Tirana got the chocolates. Today, it's leading the way too.
Simon Phillips and the XU1.
Scott Bargwanna just starting to clear away. The guys are arguing the line here. Oh, some smoke up ahead there from our race leaders. I'm not too sure what happened there, but Rob Burns under real pressure on the run now to Corporate Hill. Phillips just looking, not able to do anything about him. There's our leader, Scott Bargwanna. A nice gap now over Jack Elsgood.
Oh, geez, driving it beautifully through the corners, Bargwanna.
This is the Rare Spares replay. And Phillips's Tirana's already been slightly rearranged on the front right.
Had a facelift.
I don't think that's how it left Fisherman's Bend once upon a time. But Burns hangs on a third. Bargwanna, Elsgood, the class of the field. And the Charger covering the line. for some more smoke. Another lock up down there through turn 8. The run to Corporate Hill. Jack Elsgood has taken the lead, so a problem for Scott Bargwanna. The Tirana slipping back.
Yeah, fishtailing too all over the road. He's got a deflating tyre, I'll bet.
The right rear certainly sitting down. It's not going to make it easy for Rob Burns to charge by. But he's wounded, there's no doubt. Jack's cleared away. And Rob Burns is going to take second in the Charger. Such a shame.
Bargwanna relegated to third. Simon Phillips behind him in fourth place now. Elsgood leads the way. Burns in second place. Here comes Phillips.
So it's looking so good for the Holden fans in the grandstand at Eastern Creek.
That's the end for Scotty Bargwanna.
Oh, he's going to the pits. Game over. So Jack Elsgood, to the delight of the Ford fans.
And Phillips.
Charging through, takes second. Now there's Scott heading towards the pits. The Rest Bears replay. Paul Axiak in the Holden Monaro clearly doesn't value his rear tyres. The final lap. Elsgood under pressure, I'm sure. We talk about tyres. The Falcon has used them up. The Tirana of Simon Phillips has got some left.
Boy, Phillips has saved the best to last.
The Rest Bears replay. The exit of turn 4. He was trying to get the run there to dive up the inside, but Jack was a wake-up. Turn 9, the Falcon fills up plenty of the road, but not when it locks up.
Phillips is through. Wow.
And don't you think the Holden fans love that? Jack bags it up. There's only a couple of corners to go, though, so he needs to drag race to the line to win this Shannon's over 3-litre historic touring car race. And Simon Phillips, 2 corners, now 1 corner to go. Has Jack Elsgood got enough?
Well, he just lurked and lurked in behind the leading pack, Phillips, and he's going to get the prize here. I don't think that Elsgood can make up the ground, not in this last stretch.
It looks like he's going to make up some, but it won't be enough. Listen to the grandstand, the Tirana XU1. Simon Phillips wins at Eastern Creek Raceway. Jack Elsgood flew the flag for Ford. He was home in second, and Gary O'Brien in the Kingswood finished in third. John Harrison fourth in the Tirana XU1. Brian Potts in fifth, and Vince Macri. A good day for the Tiranas. He rounded out the top 6. Phil, your first time at the Muscle Car Masters. It's fantastic displays of the HDT Commodore, some of his old race cars. Some fantastic memories.
Absolutely brilliant. I mean, and some of the road cars down there, the time and effort people spend on them, and the love they have for them is just fantastic. Yeah, makes you feel very proud.
You were involved during that HDT special vehicle period. It was an awesome part of Peter's life, and I guess a lot of people say he was really at his creative best.
Oh, he was. He had a lot of input to the design of the extra fiberglass we put on those cars, and not just a fair bit, but also the road testing used to be quite interesting. We had some tracks around North Melbourne, what have you, which wasn't quite road legal as far as what we were doing, but you had to find out whether the tyres were going to rub on the guards or not, all that sort of gear. So we used to have some good fun. Yeah.
You were the official designated HDT test driver there for a little while.
Yeah, we sort of did a bit. Yeah. I think there was once there we had Pete and John Harvey were in 2 cars when we had the original VC. We weren't too sure which was going to be fastest in a standing corner of the auto or the manual. So we got them down the bottom of the street, and I'm up there with just a handkerchief or something. Drop that, and off they went. Come past, and the manual just won. We went, oh, okay, well the manual's quicker,
There's some great old cars here this weekend from those years, and of course a lot of people forget that you did a lot of racing during that era as well in the Tiranas. It's 30 years since the A9X Tirana. It's amazing how time flies. Some great memories.
Oh, fantastic, and in fact the way that they're presenting the cars nowadays is a lot better than what we used to, because in those days the cars were just worth what they were as far as how fast they were, and most of the time was put into the preparation of the mechanicals. And you made sure they were pretty good, like looking okay, but not to the stage that these guys have. They just do a brilliant job.
Phil, it's 1 year on since Peter's passing, but I guess his legacy of he was here at the first Muscle Car Masters, and you're here to continue that on.
Yeah, that's right. Look, it's a few people say, hey, you know, it's been pretty hard, and strangely enough, it hasn't really. I think because we're still talking about Peter and whatever the whole time. And the only thing you miss is that he's not there to have a yak to occasionally, but it's just brilliant the way that there's still so many great memories of Peter around that we can all hang on to.
I guess it must lift you up a little bit too, with the sheer amount of people here and their stories and the memories that they have of the great cars and the great races. That must be of great comfort as well.
Well, look, it's so interesting. You get an event like this where the racing's great, and I think the people are really busy with that, but also they can come around and see some of these cars. I mean, I like Bob Janey, who's got a couple of his cars here, and all the Bowden cars and what have you, and Harry Firth and Alan Moffat here and whatever. I was nearly going to go to Moffat before saying, you got a longer queue signing stuff you've ever had in your life, Moff. But I couldn't see him to do it, so he wouldn't have been happy with me if he had heard it anyway. But no, look, it's fantastic, and I think that we all really appreciate that feeling from the public who will sort of... I had a guy before, he said, I remember I saw you in 78 and you were chasing Gracie when you were in Jansen's car. And he said, around McPhillamy, he said, honestly, it was a bit like Speedway. He said, you were just this controlled drift. I'm going, oh, was I? Was it good? He's going, yeah, it was fantastic. I'm thinking, that's great. You know, I mean, for someone to remember that long ago and what have you, it really it makes you feel pretty darn proud, yeah, of that whole era. It was just absolutely brilliant, yeah.
It wouldn't be the Muscle Car Masters without Alan Moffat, and on the 30th anniversary of the great Ford 1-2, it's quite a lineup here for you today.
Well, it's very flattering, but it's a lovely day in Sydney, and this is our third year, and it's getting bigger and bigger. I think it's something that's really going to, in 30 years' time, people will be coming here. Well, the stars of today, in 30 years' time, will be doing what I'm doing now. They'll have the lines to prove it.
Some of the people in this line I don't think were born when this Falcon raced and scored that memorable 1-2 with Jackie X.
Oh, what I've noticed this morning is that the dads are bringing their young sons along just so they get properly indoctrinated to the right brand at a young age.
I know you've been asked so many times about that great 1-2, but the 30th anniversary of it in 1977, it still stands out as it was your last Bathurst win, but probably one of the best.
Well, it was certainly the best. I mean, I really competed at Bathurst for 20 years, and candidly, to take one car to Bathurst and get it across the line is an achievement. But that year, with the help of Colin Bond and the great team we had with Carol Smith managing it for me, not to say all the hard-working mechanics, to take two cars, to qualify them well, and finish 1,000 kilometres in that manner. You don't do that every day.
And Moffat from the outside will sweep around and take the checkered flag first for victory in the 1977 Hardy Ferodo 1000.
Well, we almost didn't do it ourselves because I did the last 12 laps with no brakes, and I mean no brakes. The pedal was right to the floor. I can tell you it's a funny thing psychologically. I still pressed the brake pedal as hard as I could even though it was on the floor, but the only thing that was stopping me was the gearbox. I actually threw it into third gear by the drive-in, which is the middle of Conrod, and slowly got it down. I knew if I went in too quickly I'd blow the gearbox up, then I would be on my way to Bathurst Town Hall. But Cross Skyline was a little bit hairy, knowing that. So, but I'm getting a bit of a shiver thinking about all that. I was quite surprised how fast I actually went after I got used to it.
The Rare Spares Master Blast back on track, and here's a familiar face, Wilco. Bobby Morris behind the wheel of the four-door A9X Tirana.
Bobby Morris, Bathurst winner 1976, in tears as Johnny Fitzpatrick brought the car home. And this is the car that was built the following year for the Australian Touring Car Championship. Ah, boy, does this bring back memories.
This is a car owned by Stuart Hayes. This was the A9X Tirana. This was the four-door version, of course. The two-door hatchback was probably more known for its A9X. And Bobby, not afraid to give this car a run.
Stuart forked out $100,000 for that car, you know. And look at these two.
This is Kevin Bartlett behind the wheel of the 1987 Bathurst-winning Mobile VL Commodore, and Johnny Goss.
Johnny Goss.
These two blokes. Oh, geez, John's having a go there. That's the replica of the 1974 Bathurst winner, which was built with a spare Ford Falcon hardtop shell, and these boys are playing for keeps.
They always did. They always will.
They drove together to win on the mountain in 1974, and this Mobile Commodore, 20 years ago, it was Peter Brock's last Bathurst 1000 winning car with David Parsons and Peter McLeod, two great cars in muscle car racing history.
Took them 6 months to get the prize, though, thanks to Rudy Eggenberger.
The World Touring Car Championship came to Bathurst that year, and it created a few headaches, Wilco.
Oh, it certainly did. I mean, that was one of the greatest disasters of all time. Cheats from Europe.
But the Aussie muscle car came through. Johnny Goss in the McLeod Ford, and how about this? This is an original, authentic, works Ford Falcon GTHO Phase 3, driven by John French.
This car was built for the 1971 Bathurst 500. It was later raced by Norm Beachy for a period. It's owned, it was restored by David Bowden, and full marks to him. I don't know how many cars he's restored and puts back on the track, but hats off to David, because he does a fantastic job.
Well, you know, I think it's a great.
Beautiful, beautiful car.
Fans of the great race at Bathurst might remember this car, Fred Gibson, for something that probably not one of your better moments at the mountain, but have a look at it now. It's certainly not in its as-rolled condition.
Aaron, it's beautiful. Like, it's the first time I've seen it since the accident, probably, because it was virtually a write-off after the accident. And I happened to turn it over on its roof, and things fell out of the glove box all over me, and I let the seatbelt go and fell on my head and hurt my neck and all those sorts of things. So I've got a lot of memories.
And the famous story of taking lunch in the glove box, that was something inspired by John French, and it worked against you that day. You ended up wearing lunch.
First time I did it, and Frenchy said, you've got to take something to have a snack on while you're driving around. And I said, well, he said, I'd take some fruit or some sandwiches or something. So I put some oranges in a plastic bag and cut them all up. But then I say, when it turned over, the oranges fell out the glove box all over me and everything. So it was a bit messy inside, I can tell you.
This car was found dumped in a creek bed as a shell some 20 or so years ago. This is the first time you've seen this car here at Muscle Car Masters in 2007. I watched you pour over this car, and things are pretty much bang on how they were in 72.
Well, when we crashed the car went back to Lot 6, down Melbourne sort of thing, and I thought the car had disappeared. And the only thing I knew about, at the end of the Manufacturers' Championship, I got presented with the door number upside down as a bit of a fun thing at the presentation. So that's the last I saw of the car. But when you look at the car today, the car is absolutely beautiful, and it's like it was. Like the seat cover inside the seat, the fire extinguisher. It's just like the car I drove at Bathurst, and that's fantastic. You go to Goodwood and watch Goodwood and see the cars that come out every year, and that gets bigger and bigger. And I think the Masters has got years to go yet, because every year it gets bigger, and this year's been huge. I can't believe the people that are here and the cars here. And not just that, the quality of cars that are here. There's some beautiful, beautiful cars. And I think when you go and see places like Goodwood and you see the car quality over there, we're starting to match the rest of the world with the old sort of cars.
Would you get behind the wheel of number 8, the HO, for another steer?
No. When I stopped driving, I'm not like Gossy or those guys who want to keep still driving. When I stopped driving so many years ago, whatever it was, I've never driven a race car since. I haven't got no memorabilia at all. I haven't collected a thing at all from the old days. I'm not like that. But when you see something like this, it'd be nice to have but not use it.
Did you ever take lunch any race after that?
No lunch at all. No lunch at all. But don't forget, people like Dougie Shivers used to smoke a cigarette around the circuit. And people don't believe that. They used to go past the control tower with a cigarette down between his legs and go up the mountain and have a puff on his cigarette. So here's me taking lunch and there's Dougie having a puff on his cigarette. That's the things you did in those days. That's just life, So things have changed a bit now, but...
Still to come, the Vianti Touring Car Masters rumble into Eastern Creek. We catch up with the 1987 Bathurst winning car and its drivers, Peter McLeod and David Parsons. Vianti Touring Car Masters on the track and ready to race. A big field, a varied field too. And up front, Eddie Albanese will start from pole. In the Ford Mustang will be in car with a range of drivers. John Bowe behind the wheel of the Chevy Camaro on row 2.
Cars gridding up here for what's going to be a great start to this race. We've got some masters of experience.
Albanese, Brett Youlden, front row of the grid. It's all V8s up the front. Greg East.
Oh, East trying to get up on the inside. Hasn't got the speed to do it though. Albanese holds it out.
In car with Gavin Bullis will be anti-camera, and look at that HQ stepping out through turn 1 and covers the line at turn 2. The Mustangs, 1-2. The big Aussie cars, the HQ Monaros. John Bowe in the Camaro, owned by Tony Hunter. And a wide mix here. The Touring Car Masters, a category that in the last 12 months or so has really opened up some of the freedoms, and now change for the lead. Brett Youlden was almost on the grass at turn 4.
In the car with John Bowe. Azzy Devil right on the hammer here of Albanese. Bullis has got the front though. Albanese looks to be holding Bowe up. Knock, knock, knock on the back bumper.
Pretty decent ding in the door of Brett Youlden's HQ there. This is Corporate Hill, the run to turn 9, understeer through turn 8. Bullis, Bowe, Albanese, Youlden, East. Lock brakes down at the hairpin. Trevor Talbot and the XU1 Tirana. He's really up against some big cars. This is in car with Cameron Tilley and the Valiant Pacer, and the Ford Escort just up in front there. Chris Stillwell, that is a real giant killer in this category.
Racing 3 up front though. Bullis, Bowe, Albanese. Albanese dropping off just a fraction as Bowe sets out in pursuit now. Bullis. Listen to him roll.
Turn 1 is all about keeping some momentum for the run to 2, and Bowe sneaks up the inside under brakes.
A beautiful manoeuvre. Tassie Devil sweeps through on the inside. Bullis not finished with yet though. They're finding rearguard action here. Bullis on his hammer. And he's not going to go away.
And for a guy who's stopped driving full-time at the top level, JB's doing heaps of driving. One man who's not, Cameron Tilley, off the circuit.
Almost in the ditch.
Back to the paddock, so a problem with the Pacer. No problems with the Camaro and the Mustang out in front. JB's just driven just about anything and everything this year, including the Touring Car Masters Camaro, but he isn't done with yet. Gavin Bullis closing in.
Bowe and the brakes. Bullis closes right up, looming large in the rearview mirrors of John Bowe.
And that's been one of the great things that they've done with Touring Car Masters in the last few years. They've just opened up some of the modifications that can be done to these cars. They've allowed some advertising on them as well, and the racing is intense.
Now they've dropped off Eddie Albanese now in the Mustang, the yellow Mustang. It's become a racing turn between Bowe and Bullis. Bowe still has the front, still being monstered by Bullis. Time's running out. Here he comes, Bullis down the inside.
He's close. Now he's in the gap, and JB has to relent. The Camaro's good off turn 1 here. The Mustang understeers wide, but Gavin's a wake-up straight to the left-hand side of the road.
This is as good as it gets. The Bianchi Touring Car Masters, Bowe and Bullis side by side virtually. Bullis holding sway. Only just.
And they've driven away from Eddie Albanese in the pole-sitting Mustang. There he is, way back now in third, so it's very much a 2-horse race. Back in the day, I guess, Mustang and Camaro, it was Moffat and Jane. Today, it's Bullis and Bowe.
Well, 4 car lengths now for Bullis. Can Bowe possibly bridge the gap? Time is running out, but he will not give up.
They're pretty evenly matched cars, these two. And the racing's been clean.
Big drift out of the corner by John Bower. Closing in again on the tail of Bullas. Here they come. Oh, look at this. Great. Oh, Bower almost off the track. Almost had the rear wheels out.
And that's the margin from the top two back to Eddie Abelnitsa in third spot. They have walked away with this one. And this one, turn 12, this is critical. Here's Steve Mason in the blue Camaro. He's fourth.
He started 15th on the grid.
He's come from a mile back and he's gone by Brad Tilley in the big Falcon. Both of them smoking it up off turn 12.
Oh, talking about smoking it up. This is at the front. This is Gavin Bullas being monstered by John Bower. Bower pulling on the inside again. Has he got the run? Has he got the legs? Has he got the gun? Oh, coming down, yes, Bower again in front.
The Mustang struggles at turn 1, doesn't it? JB's been able to slip down the inside at turn 2 each time, but he can't slip away.
John Bower calling on all of the years of Bathurst experience that he's got, putting into good years here at Eastern Creek.
Two-time winner of the great race in 1989 and 1994. Talk about a race that he's got going at the moment, though. He can't get away. The cars look great, they sound great, and the racing in this category is absolutely fantastic.
Here comes Bullas again. He's going to have a third go.
Whatever he does, he needs to cover at turn 1 because that's where he's been getting past. Tilley now, turn 9. Straight up the inside of Steve Mason. So the Camaro goes back to 5th, but nevertheless, starting 15th, it's still been a great run. But that smoke is just continuing from the Falcon. Not hurting the pace, though.
He's smoking.
Giving Mason something to cough on. Turn 12, late apex.
Both these guys trying to haul in. Abelnitsa in third position. The front two, though, have cleared out. This is the battle for 4th and 5th.
Turn 1, one of the fastest turns in Aussie motor racing. And Bullas launches one down at turn 2, so he puts the move back on John Bower. The Bower's pulled off a couple of times. They were so patient with the throttle. These are turn 2, and then here turn 3. Seems to go forever.
Let's cut it tight out of turn 2. Bower had to correct quickly to avoid a shunt. Now pulls in behind. He's got all that hard work to do again. Can he reel in the front runner once more?
Now, Abelnitsa under fire for third. Brad Tilley, that Falcon is still smoking, but it's not slowing it at all. Mason just behind in 5th spot now. Bower launches the move at turn 9, so these two have gone backwards and forwards all race to the anti-in-car camera. And things are just starting to get a little bit sideways. The rear tyres just starting to go away.
Oh, this is a great race. Two great races in one. We've got the battle for 1st and 2nd between Bullas and Bower, and the battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th. Bower trying to hold off Bullas. Look, that's the gap. A long way back to 3rd, 4th and 5th. Abelnitsa still managing to hold off the other two for 3rd position.
I can't get over how far the first two are. They're in another postcode to these guys. And if you haven't got a V8 in the Touring Car Masters, you're going to be struggling to keep up with these guys. The top 5, a mix of Aussie and American muscle. Abelnitsa, the former NASCAR and OSCAR driver who's turned his hand to this fantastic Mustang. But he's going to have to play it just a little bit defensive at turn 2. Mason now trying to get 4th back from Tilley. He's on the wrong side here at turn 3.
Looks like a triple-decker sandwich. Here they come.
And Mason around the outside gives him 4th spot. Nice move.
See if we can pull the same move on Abelnisa. That'll be the test.
Well, I reckon there's a chance because Abelnisa looks like he was playing defensive. Now the big Mustang and Camaro, they've gone by Cameron Mason in the Datsun 510. And now JB was always hard to get past in his racing career, and I reckon nothing's changed.
Very sharp elbows, the man from Tassie.
Now, Bullis in the slipstream. This is the run to the checkered flag. He pulls to the inside. It's going to be close. Bow, has he got enough?
No! Bullis has got him.
He's got him by 1/100th of a second. Amazing. The pole man Abelnisa will finish in third. Steve Mason, great job, 15th to 4th. But this was the winning move.
There's the Speedy Wheels replay. And he's going to nail him as they come to the line. Barely an inch in it, but Bullis takes the flag.
It must be a coat of paint. The Mustang makes it home. In the Bianchi Touring Car Masters, Bow in second, Abelnisa third, Mason in fourth, and Alistair McLean in the 68 Camaro rounded out the top 8.
We started our telecast at 10 this morning with the great race. John Bow leads us into the last corner. JB, how does it feel? You're the two-ish champion for 89.
Unbelievable. Fancy doing that.
You've done it.
That's incredible feeling.
Well, you wander around at the Muscle Car Masters and you just keep on bumping into people. John Bow, not just here signing autographs, but racing as well, having a ball.
Fantastic event, honestly. I couldn't come last year and everyone told me how good it was, and it's far, far better than I even thought it would be. And, you know, I'm really enjoying myself. So many great cars, nice people, not a massive amount of pressure. And I've raced the West Track Camaro earlier and had the best race I've had for ages. I lost the race by 1/100th of a second. It's just, I thought I'd won it.
It just seems like there's just no stress around here. Everyone's having a great day. Great weather helps, but there's so many things to look at.
Yeah, it is. It's I grew up in racing. I grew up in a racing family, and some of the cars here, just things that I watched when I was a kid, and to race in the Camaro and the Bianchi series is, to me, what racing was all about. So it's sort of things that I looked at and watched when I was a child, and then you get into the professional side of it, and you get all focused, and you don't enjoy it as much as you did when you were an amateur, so to speak, and I just love it. There's some great drivers and good cars and just lots of fun, really good fun.
Is there any cars lurking around here that you've got your eye on? You think, gee, that'd be nice in the garage at home?
No, I mean, there's plenty I'd like in my garage, can't afford. But there's a few I'd like to drive. I mean, I'd love to drive that Mustang that Alan Moffat, obviously made famous, and it's part of our history and our heritage, and there's a few other things too. There's lots I'd like to have in my garage, but I'm going to need about 3 Pats Lotto wins, I reckon, to do that.
Well, for the first time at the Muscle Car Masters, we have the presence of Ford Performance Vehicles, and Rod Barrett, the MD, is with us. Why are you here? You're just a rev head, that's all it is, isn't it?
Oh, we're passionate, and I think the crowd that comes to Muscle Car Masters, particularly on Father's Day, is really passionate about the cars. They're seeing cars here from the 60s, 70s, and we're bringing them into the 2000s with our range of vehicles.
How important is that link? There's a lot of great classic old cars here. There's the current generation of FPVs. That's an important link in the ongoing process, isn't it?
Absolutely. Look, we make no bones about it. We're not ashamed to say that our link to the GT goes back to Bathurst in 1967, and we carry on that heritage. The cars behind us are representative of that, and we're, as I said, we're not embarrassed to promote the GT name, which has been iconic in Australian motor racing since 1967.
As an FPV brand, what do you get out of a presence at the Muscle Car Masters?
Well, I think by association that we're proud to be associated with the Muscle Car Masters. We've got a range of vehicles that are modern day that people can actually buy, and I think our core market's here. Have a look at the number of car club people who are here, the guys that are wearing their anoraks that they typically wear at Bathurst or Phillip Island, and they're here wearing them today, and that's the crowd that we associate with. Yeah, look, I've got a big motor racing history. I raced 13 years, 7 of those in England, and yeah, you're right. I'm probably just a downright rev head that wants to be here in any case.
Martin. Here he comes.
Love the Commodores.
Oh, look at them. You've made their day.
Well, there's plenty of familiar faces at this year's Muscle Car Masters, and this year, for the very first time, and he's brought one of his old cars too, Alan Grice. Welcome along.
Thank you.
Now, this event, we've had this running for a couple of years now. Your first time here. Has it amazed you with what's here?
Yeah, I've been told it was good, but I didn't realise it was this big. It's quite astonishing. Yeah. The thing that nobody told me about that's amazing is the amount of people that come up and thank you for those days. It's quite extraordinary.
Tell me about this car you've got here, XU1 Tirana, 1973, and it's the legit thing.
Yeah, it is, and it's in better condition than I ever raced it, I can tell you.
There's so many great cars here, so many great memories. I guess the ones that really stand out for the fans here, and there's a massive line here. Your two Bathurst wins, two very different wins, the Chickadee Commodore, the HRT Commodore, one as a privateer and one for the factory.
Yeah, it sort of went with the mother, then the mother-in-law, didn't I, or the other way around.
Was one more satisfying than the other?
No, they were both satisfying. Any Bathurst you win is. I guess it was always enjoyable. I've said many times to be a privateer and go and kick the factory to death, and we did.
And then you went and joined the factory for a couple of races and kicked everyone else.
Yeah, we had to kick all those turbos to death, and we did that as well.
Last turn, checkered flag. How does it feel? Two-E's champ, Alan Grice.
The best feeling I've had since 1986, I got to tell you.
Well done, son. You've driven superbly.
20 years since the Walkinshaw Commodore first came on the scene, a car that was kind of unloved at the time with all its fiberglass and the like, but it finally, on that day at Bathurst in 1990, it was a bit of an underdog and it got up.
Yeah, it was ugly, wasn't it? God, it was ugly, but it worked.
Made it in. Look at that tyre, shredded to pieces, and look at that battered bodywork. There's no time for niceties now. There's some bodywork in the road, so the mechanics are chopping it off. It's the quickest way. Here comes French. He must have gone down the escape road at the end of the straight. That shows you how slippery it is, because French is no mean driver.
Well, it's amazing who you bump into at the Muscle Car Masters. John French and Murray Carter, two legends of Aussie touring car racing. I might start with Frenchie. You were here last year. There seems to be more people here this year.
Yeah, well, I told them I was coming back, so you can understand that.
Even the salesman, aren't you?
No, never been a salesman. No, I think that they come because of the friendliness of everything, and they enjoyed it, and they were very fortunate again to have a lovely day.
Murray, there's some replicas of your old race cars here. You're a part of a lot of eras of touring car racing, and it lives on today.
Well, yes, you know, I had just about every model that we went through for a number of 20, 25 years, and a lot of history came with it, with a lot of friends, and something that I look forward to coming back and catching up with all these different people that I knew years ago, like John here. He's been a very good friend for almost a lifetime.
What stands out in your mind over your racing career? What's the best memory that stands out for you guys?
Look, there's that many of them, and even the good times and the bad times are never bad. But to look back, the associations that we had, you know, not that we had a lot of success, but we enjoyed every bit of it.
What about you, Frenchie?
Yeah, my thoughts are exactly the same. The thoughts are there. You had a lot of fun. It was a lot different to what it is now because there wasn't a lot of money involved, and it was more fun.
Time for the Heritage Hot Laps, thanks to Shannon's Insurance, and this is a chance, Wilco, for some of these cars to be on track, not at race pace, but certainly a chance to see them running.
Yeah, get the fans in, have a good look at some of these classic cars. This one, as you said, a replica of Alan Moffat's 33 Bathurst car of 1974. Wow, what a beautiful looking machine. Replica or not, it still gets the blood stirring, doesn't it?
It was an unsuccessful car in terms of its Bathurst campaign that year in 1974, but it's one of a growing number of really great entries in the ultimate race replica. Now this was quite a little car.
This is a car that caused a stir. It was home built by Sydney's Frank Ure and Chris Dowd. They used a lightweight, all-aluminium Buick V8 engine, and in 74 at Oran Park, they blew them all away. Moffat and everybody else set a lap record there in this car. It caused an absolute sensation.
The Tirana L34 driven by Trevor Madden. This was the Ron Dixon, Bob Skelton L34 Tirana. It was also driven at one stage by Russell Scaife. His son Mark has gone on to do the odd good thing in Australian motor racing. It's been completely restored to its 1975 Bathurst 1000 specs and livery, and it finished 4th in the hands of Ron Dixon and Bobby Skelton. Don Holland did all of the restoration work mechanically for Trevor Madden, who owns the car, and Don's actually behind the wheel here this weekend at the Muscle Car Masters.
Speaking of old masters, Gary Rogers with the Gary Rogers Bob Stevens LX Tirana A9X. It was built by Bob Stevens for Gary Rogers in 1979. Finished 5th outright at Bathurst that year.
And this car replaced the ex-Bob Jane A9X that Gary wrote off in an accident at Amaroo. And here is Murray Carter's Phase 3 GTHO Falcon. It sounds fantastic.
Last time I saw this, it was being attacked with an axe.
Well, that's the vision. Bathurst 1972. They don't do that at my local panel shop.
Wow, what a great restoration this is. Oh, they've done a great job. Murray Carter, one of the stalwarts of motorsport in Australia, and this car is a classic.
We're celebrating all sorts of anniversaries this weekend at Muscle Car Masters. It's the 30th anniversary of the Ford Cobra. It's the 40th anniversary of the Monaro and the XT GT Falcon. And it's also the 20th anniversary of the wild Group 8 Walkinshaw Commodore.
We have touch-off for the 81 1000. Working away hard is Dick Johnson. He's running for broke out in front.
Dick Johnson, first time at the Muscle Car Masters. This is an eye-opener, isn't it?
It certainly is. It's there's a lot of very familiar old faces and some that are hardly recognisable. I suppose mine's in that category, but at the end of the day, it's great to see all the old cars and certainly a lot of the people that used to be part and parcel of them.
And a lot of those old cars aren't just sitting around, they're out there having a run.
Yeah, they are. You know, it's funny. You know, you think about you know, the way that you drive the modern car today, and then you think you should want to get in one of these things, but you're not game to do much with it because you think it might go bang. But at the end of the day, they're still pretty tough.
What about the lines here? These are just as long as the V8 supercar, and they're massive.
Well, it is. I think it's a mixture of everything. Some of the old people, some of the younger generation. You know, that's a good thing about the motorsport in this country, that it's gone from, you know, father to son to daughter to, you know, and down the generations, and this is the thing that surprised. Never ever have I ever been so surprised what I've seen some of the younger kids, even 2 years of age, coming back up to you and saying that, you know, you're my hero, sort of thing. And I think, well, how the hell would you know? You know, it blows your mind, really.
Colin Bond back at the Muscle Car Masters for another year. I reckon the lines are getting longer.
Well, I think they must be, because the queue to get into the place is absolutely enormous. It took me about an hour, I think, you know, to get off the highway to get into the gate. So there's a big crowd here, and I think it's fantastic.
It's amazing to think that a lot of these people in these lines are my vintage, who probably didn't see half of these race cars in their prime.
No, but their mums and dad would have told them about them, I'm sure. You know, I think, you know, the old cars always, you know, are great to watch, and they're a great spectacle.
30 years of the Falcon Cobra this year. We've been wandering around. There's plenty of examples of those cars. You're right in the middle of all of that.
Well, we were. I mean, that was when we sort of changed a little bit, you know, from Holden across to Forward, and then the Cobra was the second year. But no, they're all good cars, you know, and everyone always says, what was the best car you ever drove? And I always say, well, I think it was the last one, because they always got better.
John Harvey, another great start. He's up there in 5th place, just behind the two Moffat Falcon. Grice is in 6th.
Peter Brock is now still leading from Alan Grice, then the two Ford Falcons, then followed back by Johnny Harvey.
Well, a Muscle Car Masters regular, John Harvey. Welcome back, mate. You've been out on track in the old A9X as well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that, I've got to say. It's
We had some success with that car in '77. I remember that clearly with fond memories, but to drive it again, I really enjoy driving, and I did love driving it today.
What about this crowd? These lines just seem to be massive. They're bigger than back in the day.
That is fabulous. I mean, who needs V8 supercars? I mean, I couldn't say that really, but no, it is a big crowd. Huge. Although I think we had a pretty good crowd here last year. But I see it as a sort of a celebration of 50 or 60 years of touring car racing particularly. I mean, people that you meet here at these muscle car shows are unbelievable. People of all ages, and what surprises me is the young people that are collecting, models of cars of the 70s and 60s and so on and so forth, and posters and jackets and caps, and I mean, it's just unbelievable. It really is fantastic, this whole muscle car scene.
Legend. It's a word frequently used in Australian motorsport, but there are only a select few who really deserve the title. And it's the same for the great cars that carried these men to glory. Cars that not only dominated on the track, but captured the imagination of the Australian public. Record holders, championship winners, downright works of art. Together in one place for the first time, the Fantastic Five. The oldest of the five, but the one that carries half the group's total championships, Pete Gagan's 1967 Mustang GTA. Claiming an incredible 89 race wins from 144 starts, the car etched itself into the history books at the hands of the late Pete Gagan.
I keep telling this story, but I was a teenager at Warwick Farm when the car first came out, and I was in awe of it then, and to be able to drive it these days is a privilege. I met Pete a couple of times, and I'm sure he'd be happy with what we're doing with it.
Taking 3 consecutive Australian touring car championships from 67 to 69, the car was acquired after restoration in 2005 by Des Wall for $320,000. It's the only car of the Fantastic Five still in active competition.
I do get concerned about it, but we enjoy racing. We do a lot of modern day racing as well, and I think the car should be out there every now and then for people to see, and I really enjoy driving it, to tell you the truth. So.
In all honesty, the Camaro was the first purpose-built supercar, though the word supercar wasn't used. It was built on a plate. It was prepared like a supercar is today, but with what we had in 1970.
Bob Jane has driven many cars to victory lane, but one vehicle stands alone. His 1969 Chevy Camaro ZL1. Taking the Australian Touring Car Championship back-to-back in 1971-72. Jane's Camaro was embroiled in many a battle with Alan Moffat and his Trans Am Mustang.
You don't realise that at the time you buy them and race them, that they've become legends in their own time, or in years to come, as they have, as today shows what people think about them.
Australian motorsport history owes a lot to Sunshine Coast collector David Bowden. With over 60 unique vehicles in his collection, there's no doubt that the jewels in the crown are 3 of the Fantastic Five. Norm Beechey's Monaro, Alan Moffat's Mustang, and Pete Gagan's Super Falcon.
I regard touring cars in Australia as our Formula One. It's every bit as important for us to preserve them as it is, say, the Lotus collection in England, and no one else was doing it, so I decided to be the man.
Voted in 2005 by the readers of Muscle Car magazine as the greatest Australian competition muscle car of all time, Norm Beechey's Monaro was the first Australian-made car to win the Touring Car Championship in 1970 and put an end to the domination of the American makes. But like its Yankee cousins, the Monaro packed plenty of punch under the hood.
Yeah, they're breathtaking, aren't they? And when you hear them go, I mean, they're all up around 600 brake horsepower, and you hear those kick over, and it's a real man's meal.
To enter Norm Beachy's championship-winning Monaro, Ford Australia poured a staggering amount of money into a car that would become known as the Super Falcon, a high-horsepower XY Falcon with plenty of attitude. And although not as successful as the others, it is noted for a great performance at Australia's most famous circuit.
I remember the 67 Mustang winning a lot of races. I remember the Super Falcon having a lot of trouble getting it going. But I also remember at Bathurst when the Super Falcon beat Moffat's Mustang by 0.6 of a second.
Pete drove it beautifully, he drove it the way he should have. I was just one position short on the finish line, that's all.
The 1972 Bathurst round of the Australian Touring Car Championship is considered by many as one of the greatest races of all time, and a significant race for the Super Falcon, beating the all-conquering Mustang of Alan Moffat by 0.6 of a second.
I can tell you that I made the mistake of getting too close to him on Conrod, and there was a little bit of oil coming out of the back of his car. Only a little bit, but because I was so close, it was coming up over my bonnet onto the windscreen. So naturally, what do you do when you have a foggy windscreen? You hit the windscreen wipers, don't you? I turned the cloud into a blizzard and whatever else, couldn't see at all. The only way out for me was to stick my head out the window, which I couldn't do because I was so far down in the bucket seat. So what's the next step? Undo the seatbelt so I can get up out of the seat and look out the window. And that's how Pete and I raced for 10 laps.
Probably the most iconic of all muscle cars from that era is the 1969 Boss 302 Trans Am Mustang, driven by Alan Moffat. Claiming 101 race wins from 151 starts, this car was a formidable foe, yet amazingly never took an Australian championship.
It was the first Trans Am 69 Trans Am Mustang to race in that year, because the American season didn't start till June, and I launched it at Sandown in May of 69, and 101 checkered flags later, it was still running.
The Mustang launched the career of Moffat, who went on to become a true legend of motorsport in this country. Incredibly, the car was given to Moffat by Ford, a gesture that Moffat will never forget.
The greatest thing that ever happened to me was that the car was available, and that Jack Passano, who was the director of Ford Racing worldwide at that time, said get down to South Carolina, the cars, pick up a car, and I couldn't to this day, can't get over it.
6 championships between them, over 200 race wins. These cars dominated the Australian touring car scene from 1967 to 1972, and will forever be considered the masters of Australian muscle cars.
And the Fantastic Five are on track for the very first time. They are all together this weekend.
And some of the great drivers too that are associated with these cars. Bob Jane behind the wheel, the Camaro. Kevin Bartlett likewise behind the wheel of the Monaro. David Bowden, great classic car collector. By gee, where would we be without him and without his money? He owns 3 of these cars.
I'd hate to think what that's worth. There's Wall behind the wheel of the Pete Gagan Mustang too.
Plenty of drama, plenty of excitement here from the Kiwis, and there's plenty more to come.
Shane Wigston, the reigning champ from the Central Muscle Car category, starting from pole in the Kingswood, but he's been blown away. Stubber, this new Camaro's gone.
Boy, hasn't that thing got some squirt off the line. Paul Stubber leaping away off the outside of the front row to lead this huge pack of New Zealand Central Muscle cars down into turn 2.
He's built this car specifically to play against the Kiwis and beat them up in their own game, and it's working already, just 2 corners in.
It is a fantastic class of racing. Tremendous rule freedoms within a fairly tight envelope. So these guys can play with these cars a hell of a lot in terms of engine modification, suspension, and obviously body modifications. How wild looking are these things?
Rules? What rules? There's no rules in this category. There's just about anything and everything. Tiranas, Camaros, Tiranas are just everywhere in this category. Commodores. But this man's charging away out in front. Paul Stubber leading the way. The Commodore. Paul Sinclair in second spot. Bruce Anderson in the Ford Mustang.
Great mix of cars here. Traditional muscle cars, hard under brakes down into turn 9. Camaro versus Commodore versus Mustang. Here's Colburn on the outside under attack. Let's have a look at Vern Muller. Oh! Carrying the mother's in-car camera in the XC Cobra Ford. And you can see he's right in the thick of things further back in the pack.
The run from the slow hairpin back towards, this is turn 11 leading into 12, which pretty much governs the speed down the straight. And when it comes to speed, this category, there's so many big banging V8s here. When they get to the straight, look at them go. A replay of the start.
This is Vern Muller's XC Falcon. You can hear him feeding it gears as he gets it off the line, tries to punch a hole down the middle of those 2 cars. Good start. This is a very, very heavy car, somewhere in the region of 1,800 kilos, but it's got about 600 brake horsepower to move that along. Great start from Muller. Hard under brakes into turn 2. He's made up plenty of positions.
He's made up 7 by 2 corners.
Whoa! So you can see Stubber in that traditional style, hanging the tail out. Let's have a look on the in-car camera. Now, he's been busy in this car. He said he's not quite happy with the handling so far. The mother's in-car camera with Vern Muller as he continues to try and pick his way through the traffic. Oh, big brake lock up there.
Straight off the road down at turn 2. Angus Fogg in the Chevy Nova. A familiar name to V8
Yes.
supercar fans, but this is a different type of supercar racing.
Very much so. Oh, all over the road. Boy, it just goes to show they're a handful, these cars. 69, that's Colin Sargison in the HQ Holden, one of several HQ Holdens with massive power under the bonnets. Speaking of massive power, look at this. Paul Stubber from Western Australia making his New Zealand Central Muscle Cars debut this weekend in this brand new 69 Chevy Camaro.
And this is a great return from this category. They were here a couple of years ago and really did make everyone sit up and take notice, and they've come back with a full field in 2009.
They're just so wild. People can't get over the cars. There's a classic example, car 72. Steve Mallam's Chevy Camaro. That thing has almost 7.5 litres of big block V8 under the bonnet. Look at it. What an animal of a car.
It's not a car, it's an engine on wheels.
Incredible. Really manhandling this car around this circuit. With all these turns on Eastern Creek, 12 in all, it is a circuit that favours smaller, lighter cars around the tight stuff. But once they get on this long downhill straight, boy, don't those V8s start to stretch their legs.
John Colburn there in the A9X Tirana, the SS hatchback.
Well, Stubber, first, Daylight second. He's absolutely running away from the pack here, and he told me in the pits he's not entirely happy with the handling. So imagine when he gets this thing sorted out.
He's got a way to fix the handling. Use the right foot.
He's a boy from the Speedway, from the clay tracks. He knows how to hang the tail out.
Ross Golding with some problems in the VK Commodore at the exit of turn 12.
And here is our man, Paul Stubber, one of the most entertaining drivers in historic touring car racing you are ever likely to see. And look at the amount of handiwork he's putting in on the wheel there. He's even got a bit of tape on the top of the wheel to remind him when they're pointing straight ahead.
Bruce Anderson, a start that was solid, but an end that's not so strong. Vern Muller under pressure from Angus Fogg again.
Down toward turn 9. Nortec Electronics backing this wonderful appearance by the New Zealand Central Muscle Cars here this weekend.
You know the best part of this though, Marco? It's a New Zealand category and Australians winning.
It is amazing. And there's going to be more and more Aussies, I think, involved in this Trans-Tasman rivalry. and it's fantastic to see. Everyone loves muscle cars down this neck of the woods. Look at this challenge by Colburn down the inside of Sinclair. Hard under brakes as they come down toward turn one, and he gets him. Beautiful move. Colburn's Tirana hatchback. Most Australians would know that it's just a 5-litre V8, but it's got a massive amount of power under the bonnet of that thing, almost 6 litres. Paul Stubber, he has really ran away from these guys. This race, Mother's in-car camera tells the story. But look at this battle for second. It's a beauty. Oh, Colburn out on the rough stuff, out of turn 2.
Also, we've got to celebrate the fact that
This man has dominated them. He's almost 2 seconds a lap faster.
You can see the amount of push in that car. He's been complaining about the amount of understeer it's got, and he just has to wind it in. He knows where the car's losing speed, but even so, he's still well ahead of the rest of them.
Back with our in-car, Vern Muller in the Cobra. One of the regulars in the Central Muscle Car category. Not afraid to have a look down the inside at turn 2. Gets a nice move done there on Jonathan Blewett in the Commodore. And he and Fogg continue this race-long fight.
Back with our race leader, Stubber. And listen, now the guy sounds like he's driving on ice there. Really struggling for traction. But this is the first time they've run this car, so they've still got to, knock the rough edges off it.
Knock the tyres off it as well.
Oh, you know what? I hope they don't get it sorted out. It's much more fun watching Paul drive it like this.
This is the fight back to second and third. It's a long gap back to Sinclair and Colburn.
It's a very comfortable victory here for Paul Stubber. A great debut for the new Chevy Camaro.
He's done it in style from the front row of the grid, and the Aussie cleans up the Kiwis in the Central Muscle Car class.
Paul Sinclair second. John Colborne had to settle for third. All the way down to Vern Muller carrying our Mother's in-car camera in 8th spot.
Well, you wander around at the Muscle Car Masters and you never know who you're going to find. And you find Holdens, but you find guys who drive Holdens. Jason Richards, this isn't your car and you've got no voice as well. What's going on?
It could be my twin, though, because the same age as me. I tell you, it's a weekend off, can't you tell by my threads?
You're driving a car that was at its peak of its powers 30 years ago. You drive the modern Holden race car. How does this compare?
Yeah, it's quite amazing, actually. Thoroughly enjoy it. It's physically more demanding. You're wrestling with that steering wheel. You hit the brakes too hard, the rear end locks up and shudders yourself to death. But Paul Stubber, who owns the car, he's got the sister car to that, and we're having a great time out there. We're having really a lot of close racing.
You were here for the first Muscle Car Masters in the pouring rain some 4 or so years ago. The event's grown massively since then.
Absolutely. It's for people who like cars, people like me, especially old cars, it's an opportunity to almost bring yourself back in time, transport yourself back to when these cars are racing. And when I'm racing against Glenn Seaton and the E30 M3 and the Skylines, you just start to feel like you're John Harvey for the moment, racing these guys at Bathurst. It really is a cool event to come to. I mean, what I like about it, the cars are the stars of this show.
Any chance you might take the A9X to Bathurst this year instead of the VE Commodore?
Put it this way, I think I woke up this morning sore from yesterday, so these are the physically quite demanding cars. I don't think I want to do 1,000 Ks in them.
Bringing back a couple of memories now, the Shannons Group A and C touring car race. It's race 2 of the weekend, and we have a full field of C and A cars.
Yeah, it's very interesting looking at this in historic touring car terms, mixing up the Group C and Group A cars. They're touring cars from different eras, but they race very competitively together. In-car camera, Mother's Car Care. This is Steve Perrett's Tirana A9X, one of 2 cars carrying in cars this weekend.
David Holt on pole position in the ex-Bob Forbes Commodore, Glenn Seaton in the BMW M3, but Terry Ashwood in Godzilla, the Nissan GTR, the 4-wheel drive, catapults it to the lead.
Fantastic start from Ashwood, but look around the outside, the familiar side of one of those Holden dealer team Tirana A9Xs as they thunder down toward turn 2.
And that's Paul Stubber behind the wheel of the ex-Wayne Negus car. Jason Richards has stepped aboard the ex-John Harvey car that he drove here at the inaugural event, the Muscle Car Masters in 2005.
Up over the rise, plunging down into turn 4. Ashwood, Stubber, Hulk. Look at the field here. A great mix of Group A and Group C touring cars. Group C, of course, covering that era from 1973 to 1984, then Group A picking up from then through to 1992. And this car leading the race really was the pinnacle of the Group A touring car.
It was the Bathurst winner in 1992 in the hands of Jim Richards and Mark Scaife. Frank Binding, the Army Reserve XD Falcon, a little bit sideways. But the thing with this category is these are all the original legitimate race cars.
Yeah, there are a number of replica race cars in the historic touring car scene, but these cars have to be the actual cars that competed during the era, complete with logbooks, complete with certificate of description. They are the real deal. And I've got to say to every one of the owners and drivers of these cars, well done. It is fantastic to see these cars out there and racing the way they used to.
I don't remember Cito driving a BMW M3, though. He's behind the wheel of an ex-Emanuele Pirro Schnitzer car. David Holt charging onto the back of Terry Ashwood here. This was as close as a Commodore ever got to a GTR.
It's very impressive, isn't it? These two cars raced against each other in this era, but I don't remember... Oh, he just got a little bit offline there. I don't remember a Group A Commodore getting within a sniff of one of these GTRs at their peak. They were phenomenal.
Well, there was just the once, Bathurst 1990, when Gryson Percy got the win, but the GTR was very, very new. And look at Frank Binding throwing this Falcon around.
Look at that. That thing's stepping out just about every corner. I'm not sure whether he's got a flat tyre, but he's really got his hands full. Let's have a look at the Castrol replay there. You see Hulk bolt down. And Terry Ashwood took advantage. He snuck up the outside. Thank you very much. And with all that four-wheel drive traction, well, very easy to do.
Steve Perrott shoots out and around Rod Markland in the GTSR Nissan Skyline.
Ex-Roadways Tirana A9X, and very strongly in 1979 with Charlie O'Brien. And Steve Parrott, in fact, owns both of those ex-Roadways cars, the four-door and the hatchback. So a little bit of a lead opening up here for Ashwood, Hulk, and here's the battle for third. And it's a beauty, Glenn Seaton in the BMW M3. And this is the Evo 3 version, the 2.5 litre version, which had a bigger engine than the earlier models. Very competitive in European touring car racing.
And those earlier models are represented here with David Toe's ex-JPS BMW. There's an ex-Schnitzer car in there as well.
Look at this.
Have a look at this.
Huge crowd in here at Eastern Creek on Father's Day, and a huge field on track to entertain them. On board with Steve Parrott, and he's going door to door with car 12, one of the Nissan GTSRs.
Rod Markland slipping through in what is an ex-Mark Scaife car. That was one of Mark's early Works factory Nissans.
Here's the leader, Terry Ashwood. This is the lead, the Bathurst winning car from 1992. Boy, wasn't that a controversial victory.
Just a little bit. Just a little bit. It evoked a little bit of emotion from the V8 fans.
Everyone can't remember. This car got caught out. Jim Richards at the wheel in a huge downpour. It brought the race to an end. The car crashed. A lot of people didn't understand the race rules at the time, that the race result was drawn from the lap previous to the red flag lap. So even though it crashed, it was leading on the previous lap, and that made it the winner. And boy, didn't that cause some troubles, particularly up on the podium.
2.6 litre, twin turbo, oodles of power, oodles of grip. Who needs aerodynamics?
And there was nothing that the Confederation of Australian Motorsport could do to slow that car down. In its final year, and these guys, they tried everything. Rev restrictions, extra weight, no matter what they threw out at the car, still kept winning. It gave you the impression it sort of had plenty in reserve.
And it was the Australian-built GTRs that the Japanese didn't want to go and race over there because they were just too quick.
Yeah, Gibson Motorsport were certainly world leaders in Nissan GTR technology at the time. And they built a phenomenal race car.
And when it came to Australians building good M3 BMWs, we just saw the ex-JPS car, David Toe, the ex-Jim Richards machine, in front of the Schnitzer car. And that's what it did in 1987 as well.
Back to the lead. Terry Ashwood showing a clean pair of heels to David Holt in the Commodore. And here comes Glenn Seaton. Look at this thing. It's got so much less power than the cars in front of it, but what these cars were renowned for was phenomenal braking and handling. And he's using that to good effect around here. Eastern Creek Raceway, with all these corners, it's a track that really rewards a well-driven small car.
David Holt pedalling along very nicely. Second spot in the car that Russell Ingall used to make his first start at the Bathurst 1000. Would have been great to see Cito in a BMW back in the day, wouldn't it?
Oh, definitely one of the best drivers of his era, and one of the best touring car drivers, I think, in Australian motorsport history. Tremendously gifted natural driver, and he was fast in everything he drove, and he's still carrying that speed over now into his later years.
Here are the BMW boys, the 2.3 litre M3s. Jason Richards in the HDT A9X Tirana. Norm Mogg in the familiar Holden Racing Team Commodore. And Ed Singleton there in the STP, the ex-Alan Grice Commodore from Roadways Racing.
Several Mustangs too that competed during the Group A era. Cars from New Zealand and locally produced cars as well. So they were quite a popular choice for Ford runners. As we head into the final lap, David Toe just showing the strength of the BMW M3 around Eastern Creek Raceway. Bill Cutler behind him. And Cutler in car 46 there, now getting pretty serious about trying to make a passing move.
Ed Singleton, the STP Commodore, the exit of turn 2, the ex-Alan Grice car, which was nicknamed Elvis by the team because it had just as many hits as.
Boy, these cars sound good. I was standing down in pit lane watching this STP car come past at full tilt. That 308 V8 engine, that engine note, it's just such an incredible memory of the Group C era at its peak. Paul Stubber and his teammate Jason Richards in car 76, the two Holden dealer team Tirana A9Xs. But they just haven't got quite what it takes here to match the Group A cars around Eastern Creek Raceway.
Jason Richards has stepped into a time machine. He's gone back 30 years in top-line Holden machinery.
And this car 4, is a very interesting part of the HTT garage, being a car built by Wayne Negus in Western Australia and flew the flag for the works team over there.
David Holt's been flying the flag for Holden. He's got close to Terry Ashwood in the GTR. In fact, he's going to get closer and closer, and he might have just snuck home.
Can you believe that? Last corner, last lap, David Holt in the Shannon's Group A and C race pounces right at the time when he needed to.
Well, there's plenty to see and do here at the Muscle Car Masters, and we often talk about the fact that bigger is indeed better, but this is plain ridiculous. Dennis O'Brien, this is a Ford Galaxy, but it's a bit more like a Ford Milky Way. It takes up that room.
Yeah, it's a fairly large motor car. What it weighs, who knows? We haven't had it on the scales, but I've always had the fantasy to own one and been lucky enough to own one for sort of since the 70s. And yeah, a great contraption. Harry Firth and I sort of got on pretty well back then, and Harry said to me, he said, I think I can probably find you one of them. And it's just sort of went in one ear and out the other. And Harry rings me about 10 days later and he said, I found one in pieces. He said, there's 6 million pieces. And he didn't tell me where or when, so he said, now, you just bring the biggest truck you can find to Melbourne. And he said, we will go and pick it up. And that's exactly what happened. We went round to Mrs. Len Lukey's place and loaded it all in the back in 6 million pieces.
And you went racing in it, but you quickly found that it was a bit of a beast.
A heck of a handful. I mean, these things you don't drive with any finesse. You bounce it from curve to curve, you aim it and fire it. There's no finesse. Changing direction, you got to write it a letter because it takes a long time to change direction. But it's nothing happens in a hurry. But it is a pleasure to drive, except you just got to be a little bit careful with the throttle because it gets out from underneath you pretty easy.
And this is its comeback this weekend?
Yes, correct. Yes, yeah. And it's different. I mean, it's something that you don't see in every garage.
You got a garage big enough to fit it?
Only just.
Heritage Hot Lap Time brought to you by Castrol Edge at the Muscle Car Masters. And there are some weird and wonderful cars here, Marco, but this is one of the weird ones.
Oh, isn't that a beast? Dennis O'Brien fantastic Ford Galaxy 7-litre, 427 cubic inch engine. Very, very rare car in the world. One of only a handful built by Holman Moody in the US. And then ended up out here. It's a long, long story, but a fascinating car. Jack Brabham celebrating 50 years this year since his first World Formula One Championship victory. Bob was also very active in Australian touring car racing too in the late 70s in this car, an A9X four-door sedan. Teamed up with Brian Muir in Bathurst and had some great success in that car. And as I said, the Ultimate Race replica competition has been a huge success as part of the Muscle Car Masters. This is one of the latest ones, a replica of the SLR 5000 that Peter Brock raced in just a couple of rounds of the 1974 Australian Touring Car Championship. Doesn't look funny with the skinny XU1 wheels, no flared guards. This is before the L34 came on the scene. And Brock raced this car twice in the ATCC and won both rounds. But great to see replicas of these cars that have long gone missing, because they really do fill in the blanks.
What about the captain, Peter Jansen? Used to spice it up at Mount Panorama every year. You never knew what the captain was going to give you. No. And you would know too.
Yes. His yellow and red Commodores, they really were something that people will not forget at Mount Panorama from that era.
Weren't you a young crew member there in that team one day?
Yes, indeed. The gopher with the 82 team, worked for the good captain. Both those cars very familiar to me. And they raced at Mount Panorama from 1980 to 1984. And the two of them are here this weekend.
Now this is another of the replicas. This is a fantastic looking replica of what they called at the Holden dealer team
the Beast.
The Beast. Their big sports sedan that was a wild machine.
It sure was. Mid-engined. Repco Holden Formula 5000 engine, flared guards, as crude as you could make it, but incredibly effective in the hands of HTT drivers Peter Brock and Colin Bond. It's just built to do the job, and it did it very effectively. It didn't race for very long, but it was one of the leading lights in sports sedan racing in that era.
Group A well represented as well. The Tony Longhurst B&H Sierra. This is the left-hand drive version, not the Bathurst winning car. They were some of the fastest Sierras around in that era.
It's just great that these guys who own these cars can get out in these non-competitive track demonstrations. They don't have to race them, but they can go along at whatever speed they're comfortable. This is a pretty famous car from Ford Motorsport history. This is the last Falcon V8 that Murray Carter raced before he switched to Mazda, the XE Ford. And it's great to see it has also survived the years. Important muscle car anniversaries being celebrated this weekend at the Muscle Car Masters, including the 40th anniversary of the GTHO Falcon, the Monaro GTS 350, the Capri, and of course the L34 Tirana celebrating its 35th birthday.
Time for the Speedy Wheels Master Blasters section of the Muscle Car Masters with some famous cars. And this one kicked it off for Ford fans with the GTHO. It was the Alan Moffat John French winner of the 1969 Sandown 3-hour, the first win for the GTHO.
Sure was. This car went on to finish 4th at the Bathurst 500 3 weeks later. But this is the actual car, and it's just wonderful. Master Blast sessions are reserved only for very special cars, and that includes this one, of course. This is the car that Peter Brock and Jim Richards drove to that massive 6-lap victory at Mount Panorama in 1979. Incredible. One of the many cars owned by the David Bowden collection. And here it is in all its glory at Eastern Creek Raceway today. Probably the most famous A9X Tirana ever made.
Set the lap record on the last lap, and the car actually is in as-was state, unrestored, exactly how it was. Great to have this car out here, the Masterton Homes Group A Commodore. It's Steve Masterton behind the wheel himself. He hasn't driven in 17 years.
It's so great to see Steve and drivers of his era, you know, discovering the Muscle Car Masters, the magic of the event, and the ability to get out here in non-competitive track demos and get back behind the wheel of a race car. Steve said he was very, very rusty when he got back in this thing, but after 4 or 5 laps, it's amazing how it all came back to him.
This one's a bit more of a modern car. Glenn Seaton behind the wheel of the car that he won the Australian Touring Car Championship for V8 Supercars back in 1997. The same car, actually, that started from pole for the year before at Mount Panorama in 1996.
Yeah, that's Glenn behind the wheel. Doesn't he love getting back in this car every year? Real touch of nostalgia. National Championship winning car in a great era for Glenn Seaton in the very early days of V8 supercar racing.
Well, this was the supercar of the 70s, Alan Moffat's GTHO Falcon, the 1973 Australian Touring Car Championship winning car. It was Moffat's first championship. He tried so long with the Mustang, but it took this car to do it.
It doesn't look great. That's the very early, the first year of Group C touring car regulations where they allowed some modifications. And that is a full-on factory works car. And beautifully turned out by the David Bowden team.
Plenty of great memories from the Speedy Wheels Master Blasts. There you go. There you have it, the Muscle Car Masters for 2009. Fast becoming a Father's Day tradition. Hope you enjoyed the show. Plenty of cars and stars. Book it in for 2010.